we are temporarily rising from the discussions on revenue tax fees, and we will be moving along on to Part 2, fees and charges assessed by the Guam Fire Department. So we'll be starting up with page 58 on the governor's proposals. And with that, I'd like to meet our acting fire chief. Why don't you, Mr. Pareto, why don't you introduce everybody here?
Good morning. I'm the acting fire chief, David Pareto, and to my right is Assistant Chief Mike Unkanko, and to his right is Fire Captain Paul Nicholas.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we are on Part 2, page 58, fees and charges assessed by Guam Fire Department. And we are now in Section 1. Section 1A, enabling authority of the Guam Fire Department. Okay. No comments, questions. We will move along to B, approval of fees for services provided by the Guam Fire Department. No dialogue, no comments. We will move along to C, proceeds of the Guam Fire Department fees for services. Wait a minute. Hold on, run. I'm looking for the fee schedule. It's in the back. Okay, actually, there is I notice an Exhibit 1. Oh, boy. Okay. We have an Exhibit 1. We've basically Section 1A, B, and C are just basically language in regards to the fee structure. And then we have Exhibit 1, Guam Fire Department. And this is schedule fees and charges with rules and regulations. And do you have that, page 1? Article 1, ambulance services, non-emergency. So we are going to move on to the areas and the fees as proposed by the administration, and start with Exhibit 1, which is the fire department's ambulance services, non-emergency, and Chapter 1 general provisions. Okay? So you have Senator Respicio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we continue, I'd just like to notate for the record that I'm requesting that BBMR come in because we're discussing potential fee increases in these departments and agencies, and ultimately the decision of this legislature would impact the budgetary side of it. I'm not opposed to continuing,
Sure.
But if you could please have BBMR available for us.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Senator Respicio. I'd like to take note, if you can please contact members of the administration, get BBMR in down here. But we will continue on again. I would assume, again, Acting Chief Pareto, that these proposed fees did come out from the Guam Fire Department, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we are calling BBMR. We'll get them down here, but in the meantime, I'll allow the body to discuss the proposed fees for services. So we'll start on page 1, and we are on A. No comments on A. And then B, the definitions. We'll go down to page 2. Again, there's definitions. If no comments or questions on page 3, there's C, scheduling and standby services. If nothing on Senator Pangilinan. We are in C, scheduling standby services.
Yes, just curious, what happens if the event is not 2 weeks in advance? What happens if they need some standby services and they don't get they don't give you 2 weeks notice?
Assistant Fire Chief Mike Nkenko. Chief, we basically put this down we use 2 weeks as a threshold. However, we will accept any last minute requests for standby, provided they provide to us documentation or proof that there was no way of them planning or anticipating this event to occur.
Okay.
I'm sorry we did not include that in there, sir.
Yeah, I'm just, otherwise, because it says you must call the emergency.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so it may not give you room,
Yes, sir.
because this is, of course, being adopted by legislation. It
Yes,
may
sir.
not give you that flexibility, and I think you want that flexibility.
Yes. Based on the standby services that we have received, and this is true experience and everything, they normally give us approximately 3 weeks to a month in advance. We may incur probably once in a year or twice that we have something that just pops up.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Pangilinan. If no other comments or Senator Frank Blas on C's.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Chief, Fire Chiefs that are there. Question that I got here with regards to standby services, and I know that this has come up before with regards to requesting with the fire department to have at least an ambulance or emergency medical services personnel present, and more specifically at sporting events. But I also do recall that there were some events where the event actually had to be canceled or postponed or suspended because the emergency medical the personnel had to respond elsewhere. Now, my concern is with regards to the implementation of these fees, and you've got and it does say here that adjustments will be made, and I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm probably jumping here, but I think it ties in with regards to on-call services because they need to understand this thing, that the fire department will make adjustments should they are unable to meet the scheduled time or must remove the unit from standby. How would that affect, though, with regards to the fire department's insistence, emergency medical services insistence, that if they're not present, the game has to be suspended or the event has to be suspended while in progress?
Senator, in this respect, we will try and be flexible in trying to meet that request. Should there be an ambulance initially requested and they should be disrupted because of an emergency case where they need to be pulled off, then we can send another relief unit there, such as one of our rescue units.
Okay. And again, I'm concerned because here we're charging now for a fee, and this is for an event that I'm sure that, nowadays almost everybody else charges an admission fee as well. And if the event is going to be postponed because emergency medical services, that were on standby there had to be pulled for another one, and even in the rotation, changing one out for another. I've been to a couple of events where you had to the event was suspended for 15 minutes up to an hour until the services can be replenished or somebody can come in to fill. Now I think we're getting into an area where if we do that with regards to the adjustment, now what's the liability in the fire department, and as far as the profit, if you will, that the event stands to make or lose because the event was suspended.
Yes, well, sir, the requirement to have an ambulance in itself is not a GFD requirement in itself. It's the organization, such as the schools itself or any other organization that makes it a requirement that an ambulance be present. We don't have that requirement that an ambulance be present. However, we try to provide that service as much as possible, but should an emergency dictate our act, removing those vehicles from the standby, we would have to. Now, in regards to the fees itself, there is a clause in here to make an adjustment should we not be able to provide that service again. Now, in terms of the organization as to what they will want to do or their actions, that will be left up to them. But the services will provide it should we be able to provide the service. If an emergency requires that we be removed from there, then we will do so, and adjustments will be made. For in the event, depending on the hours itself, we may even probably waive the charges itself.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Blas. Okay, and we're on C. Okay, if no other discussion on C, we move along to D. Fees and standby services. This is on page 4. We move along. Okay, no comments. We move on to E, Guam Fire Department's responsibility. It's page 4 and 5. Okay. Moving along. Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Pangilinan.
When you say an invoice will be mailed and so forth, who's going to be doing all this? Are you guys going to now have an accounting department, or how do you intend to? Are you going to set up a brand new division within the fire department now to collect these fees, to mail the statements, to reconcile payments, and so forth? How is that going to be handled?
Well, we had that discussion on our previous hearing that we just came from, and yes, we do admit that we may need an administrative assistant to handle some of the load on this particular fees, such as this in itself. These are very minimal in terms of services that we provide, the standby services, as compared to the emergency transports, which we have another billing system proposed on that. But yes, we would need additional personnel, probably an administrative assistant, to handle just the invoices itself. And payments, of course, will be made to the Treasurer of Guam into the FLAME account with the Fire, Life, and Medical Emergency Fund. So.
I mean, when you consider all these fees and so forth, and you have no system at all in place now, and you're going to put it in place by May 1st, I mean, you've got to have an accounting system, you got to have a billing system, a receivable system, printers to print your invoices, and all of these are going to be effective May 1st. Are you geared up and set up to be able to bill all this and begin?
Yes, sir. Okay. The only accounts that GFD will be actually handling or in their possession is for standby services or public services in itself. All others, such as emergency, we are working with GMH. They have a billing system for emergency services there in itself. This discussion has been ongoing for the last 4 years in terms of with the billing system itself. It's basically GMH does the billing and everything. We provide administrative costs or the cost, they deduct the cost that we are drawing their medical supplies from. Now, in regards to permits and fines, again, we have a billing system in place with one stop. It's basically an invoice itself that would have to be printed that would reflect the account itself. And all they do, again, is pay the Treasurer of Guam right then and there. All our receipts will be kept, and an individual will be charged for reconciling with DOA records on the deposits made. That is already in place. That we have already had discussions on. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Pangilinan. Again, we're in F. Collection of fees. Okay. Go move along to G. Scheduling non-emergency patient transport services. Page 6. Nothing on page 6. Senator Pangilinan.
Mike, why would a patient, this non-emergency, why would you want to get into the business of doing that? If it's a non-emergency, no medical services required in the transportation of the individual, why would you even want to entertain that service, if the patient does not require the services of an EMT, CPR certified driver, a stretcher? Why would you want to do that? I'm just curious. Is there another system that is out there? if these people don't have transportation in the first place, then they can't pay you. I'm just kind of curious as to the thinking that went into wanting to. I know that we provide this service, but usually it's because they think they need an ambulance, so they can't schedule it. You know what I mean? They just think they're having an emergency. They call you. You call, and then you determine it's not an emergency, and now it's a non-emergency transportation. You're talking about dollar ride here, basically, for an ambulance. And is that the best utilization of ambulance and medically trained personnel?
Okay, sir, in response to your inquiries, well, yes, it's true. The mandate of the fire department is to provide emergency medical treatment and transportation of the acutely sick, ill, and or injured. However, since the existence of the ambulance service in the fire department, back as 1950s, the department had made it part of its public service to provide non-emergency care. Non-emergency transport are those that require ambulance transportation, are bedridden individuals that just go for their dialysis and or their scheduled appointments. We try to deter these individuals from using the ambulance as so-called taxi service. So, but we cannot. We feel that we can't stop it because it's been a service provided to the public for decades in itself. Now, we wanted to make sure that if we continue to provide this service, that we get some recovery costs for this, and it could serve as a deterrence for individuals to use the ambulance as a taxi service. But some of the reasons they require transportation to the medic, of course, is more convenient, especially if you're bedridden. You can't you can't fit a stretcher in a vehicle and things like that. And like hemodialysis, transport to the hospital may be considered an emergency. However, transport back to home we consider non-emergency because there's no treatment needed. So that's why we included this part. That's why we came up with this.
Senator, if I may. Sure. And with this kind of classification of services in regards to non-emergency, again, echoing with Chief Nkanko, depending on the type of patient that we're transporting, maybe for, like he mentioned earlier, dialysis, some of the patient does require adjunct equipment, medical equipments like oxygen, although it's not an emergency, but part of their therapy treatment is to ensure that there's oxygen equipment on board to provide that services, as well as the type of patient. Again, some of them requires that they lay flat or they lay supine or sitting up position, and it just needs those kind of transportation in our side.
No, I agree. I think that those are that's my question is those are the kind of patients you want to serve because they can't get in a car or they can't get on mass transit or a private vehicle is not suitable. I don't mind that. It's just that when I see this and you say, and you're like for lab visits, I mean you can call the ambulance to take you to your lab. I mean I understand if you're a stretcher patient, bedridden, you can't go, and so forth. And I just want to make sure that we're not extending, and then these are scheduled so that you end up having to pull the people from the schedule. Now the patient is maybe even worse off now because he can't get his service and so forth because you have an emergency and he's depending on you. I just don't want to build a dependency here for those that are non-critical transportation-related services for patients that may not be emergent but critical. And so I just want to make sure that we thought about all of that and that we are in fact utilizing our emergency services in the best use in terms of trying to protect and serve and preserve public health and safety. So I just want to make sure that all of that has been thought about.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Panglin. Okay, no one else on G. Then we move along to page 9H. Fees, non-emergency transport services. Okay, move along to page 10. Nothing on H. To I, collection of fees, non-emergency transport services. It's on page 10. Okay. Nothing on I. We move along to J. Oh, are we in I or J? Senator Shimizu? I or J?
Just on page 10, one, collection of fees, non-emergency transport
Okay,
services.
page 10. Collection of fees, non-emergency transport
Yeah,
services. Senator Shimizu.
just a thought flash that I had in all these fees. Would these fees be also part of anybody's private insurance? I'm wondering. We're talking about payment. Have you done any of that research in terms of the services that you provide could come out of the person's health insurance? Have you looked at the health insurance and see if those are the types of things that you can claim against your insurance?
Well, the insurance will determine emergency or non-emergency treatment. The insurance have quite different interpretation of what is eligible or eligible as an emergency treatment.
Yeah, but by your own statement, non-emergency, it already says it would be a disallowed cost by your definition
Yes.
already. So it's not
Yes,
an
sir.
emergency.
Yes, sir.
It's a disallowed cost already. That's what I'm asking. Is there something that maybe your people could have maybe explore, whereby to what extent, what are the parameters upon which it would become an exclusivity? In other words, it's not allowable. Because I heard you earlier that this might be a way of discouraging people from calling for the ambulance, and when it's a non-emergency, but it could also be an urgent care situation. I like to look at the difference between emergency. It could be a life and death threatening, but then when you get there, it really is an urgent care for the ordinary. For most people, what they feel is this is an emergency. I've got to get there, but then it might be more of an urgent care versus that of a. But I just wanted to see if you've explored, or your staff or the administration explored the possibilities of this can be part of a benefit for emergencies when you guys call it an emergency. Because when somebody calls up to come to the house because it's they say it's an emergency and you get there and it's not, then you would apply the fee. So this is just a food for thought, whereby I hope that at some point in time, people, will have to decide whether to go in the ambulance and then only to be told it's not an urgent, and then they come back and get the cost, and then next time around they say, man, that was a very expensive ride for me. And then when it really became an emergency, it may be a deterrent, and because it's a whole new way of doing business in terms of transporting emergencies, and that's something that I'm just occurring, because when I'm out with in the community, which I'm always there, a lot of the grassroots people, the ordinaryo na tao na, they come to me and say, "Lasing Senator, whenever na esta tisino katgay insurance tinahong para imalo na nisidat i familia." So I'm a little bit leery that, again, the poorest or the poor, the people that can't afford it, will say, no, I might be charged for my emergency because they claim it's not an emergency. And quite frankly, insurance companies are notorious at looking for, when they review, utilization review, and it bounce back, and then people are starting to say, I can't afford the cost. Now it's even to the extent of getting me to, and I'm looking at like I said, the needy of the needy, and sometimes they give up on that. So something to look at, something to consider, something to advocate, that we may want to be able to see what can be done that these people do not just give up and have to choose between a ride to the hospital versus some other obligations, or maybe losing their house or their cars and so forth. sa para wala toto isalapi na lo tisinon fonta tisa nata pari manilutan na sa maata ni ipasta in fact wan toto lingga mga biboka sa lana na kunagwan ni kutsa tikos gwagwan pare gwa ni man maulik tadung na ibot sa niya lo I see it and I just wanted Mr. Chair to look at some of those fees whereby those fees can be looked at, and maybe I don't know, and this is a real rough thing, but maybe food for thought is to look also in terms of the sliding scales for those that can't afford it. Should not either be denied because some people have big salaries or salary increases and they can afford it. And our community is judged by how we take care of our less fortunate. And put that in your mind and maybe in your thinking cap and do some brainstorming as to how you can address that so that we do not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Shimizu. Okay, on I, collection of fees. Okay, no other speakers in I. J, collection of fees, emergency transport services. Okay, no speakers on J. K, services appeal. It's page 11. Page 12. This is Chapter 2, Fee Schedule for Ambulance and Other Units, Standby Services, Emergency, Non-Emergency Patient Transport Services. Senator Respicio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up to the previous speaker, were any formal meetings? Did any formal meetings occur with the insurance companies on island, or is that even necessary? In other words, this fee schedule that the fire department is proposing, if this were to be implemented, would this then mandate that the insurance companies now pay for those services which otherwise they weren't paying for?
No, sir. There was no meeting. There was no meeting at all whatsoever for any HMOs. Part of this, the HMO itself would make that determination whether it would be covered as an emergency. Then again, like I said, even if we transport, we consider an emergency, may not be considered an emergency by the HMO itself. However, if you recall every time we have this open enrollment for insurance, there's some companies out there that advertise that ambulance transportation is covered in itself. That in itself also says that there are some HMOs that do cover insurance.
See that, Chief, that was my point, that they were advertising that this is a service provided by that particular insurance company,
Right.
but they advertise it because there's no
They're not being
mechanism
charged.
where they could be billed.
Yes.
Now, if this thing were to pass, do you foresee any problems with the HMOs not recognizing these fee schedules, or do you think they'll recognize it? Because we want to make sure that if these are costs that could be paid for by the insurance companies,
Yes.
we want to make sure that the patients don't absorb this if it's certainly part of their program.
Yes, sir. Well, based on the testimony submitted by Mr. Bill McMillan about approximately 3 or 4 years ago on the same bill itself, GMH has been compiling data on our EMS forms itself, and 85% of our transports are eligible for Medicare and or HMO reimbursement. And we do feel that that 85% itself, of all the individuals that come there, 85% are actually eligible for compensation by Medicare or coverage by Medicare or the HMO. So we do have some data.
So you don't foresee the insurance companies, HMOs, rejecting this even though it's established that it's an eligible charge?
I cannot, sir, make that determination.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to understand more. How do we, after implementing this, how do we make sure that the HMOs will recognize this as eligible charges and pay for it? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Respicio. Again, we are in Chapter 2, page 12. Senator Pangilinan, did you raise your hand? Senator Pangilinan.
Yeah, I'm kind of just would like to get an explanation for the determination of the charge. How was that arrived at? What does it entail, and so forth?
Okay, the charges in itself that we propose, sir, are, I have to be upfront and admit to you, this is very nominal or minimal as compared to the national average charge for ambulance that we provide the services, the certification requirements, and everything. But we derived at this, the fees we show here are actually 54% recovery cost of what it takes to run the program itself. Now, when we say 54%, we're saying approximately 54% of what the cost of the ambulance is over a 5-year period, which is the recommended lifespan of an ambulance itself. We take into consideration the supplies used, which is approximately $175,000 per year, the equipment used, the maintenance costs, which is $70,000 per year for the ambulance units. $70,000 for 10 ambulances, working ambulances. We're looking at fuel cost, $78,000 for the cost to run these ambulances. We've also looked at the certification requirements for EMTs itself. Should it be, or the type of certification required, whether a BLS, which is basic life support, or ALS is required, which is advanced life support. Now, I want to make it clear that yes, we do anticipate, this is based, like I said, on 54.7% recovery cost of what it takes. But in our proposed projected revenues, we project revenue collection of approximately 50% based on that. If we do collect 50% of the total revenues or billing itself, that will come up to only about 30% recovery cost for what it takes.
What's the amount? What will you bill?
Okay, what would we bill, or what would we generate?
Yeah, what would you?
Okay,
what would be your total billing and then 50% collection rate? What is your total?
Okay, our total billing would be, let's say on the ambulance unit, based on our average responses and transportations.
Right.
At 100% collection rate, it would be $3.2 million. At 70%, it's $2.3 million. At 40%, it's $1.3 million.
Okay, so you expect to bill $3.2 million
Yes, sir.
in fees.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's just based on a 54% recovery rate.
Yes, sir.
And that's just for the so your total cost of the ambulance units now to run the ambulance units, the advanced life support, and so forth is about 6.4 million, 6.7
Yes, sir.
million.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I certainly understand this, and I still think that there's maybe we'll get to talk about that a little bit on the emergency side.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Pangolin. Again, we're in Chapter 2, page 12. Nothing on page 12. Continuation on page 13. Okay.
Yeah, just
It's page 13.
yeah. So the emergency ambulance transport. Again, that's going to be not determined by you at all.
Yes, sir.
But by some other party.
Yes, sir.
And that's $195 flat rate.
Yes, sir.
So is that one way, basically?
Yes, sir.
One way. And all the other non-emergency patient transport, that's round trip?
Yes, sir.
So it's to and from
Yes, sir.
their place of, or wherever you pick them up. Okay. I really, just have the same concern with regards to this emergency ambulance service, and deterring people from calling in to utilize the service. A patient may be deciding he's experiencing heart pain, and then he thinks about a $195 ride to the hospital and decides he's not going to call the ambulance, he's going to chance it, drives off, tries to drive himself to the hospital or get somebody to drive himself to the hospital. I mean, crazy people do that, you know. I mean, and when you're in that situation, and I can say crazy people because I tried to drive myself to the hospital, you know, and it just didn't work. We had to stop by the gas station. I insisted that I could go to the hospital, you know, and not thinking about the price back then, but just the fact that, you know, I wasn't going to ride in an ambulance. And of course, by the time the fire personnel at Barragata were insisting I get in the ambulance, we even had to stop the ambulance and had the life support come because of the advanced life support system, because of the condition I was in. But I just hate to have one person in this community decide that he's going to chance it, you know. And is this the place we want to recover our costs? I mean, isn't that what some of us are paying taxes for, so that we don't present any barrier at all to somebody that needs emergency medical care? And you know, I really am leery about doing this. I know that, you know, you got the business community out there, or people out there that say, you know, you got to do this until it strikes them, until they have that in the back of their mind, you know, and they find somebody in their family that that's going to make that decision. You know, it just, I really believe that there's an opportunity here for disaster and for loss of life because of, you know, the charge. And I know you guys are as uncomfortable about that situation. All you want to do is protect, serve, and save lives. You know, you don't want to have to worry about this. That should be us down here. You know, that should be worrying about how do we provide you the resources so that you can concentrate on doing your job and not having to worry about, you know, the money that's going to come for you to do your job. That's why we ran for office, and that's why we have a governor and a legislature to balance these priorities. And I feel very uncomfortable balancing, you know, this priority on the backs of everybody out there. I really think we have a system of providing resources for these type of services through the general taxing authority of the government, and to present this kind of barrier, I think, to somebody that to seek emergency medical care and have him think twice about seeking it, you know, is weighing heavily on me at this time, I think. And I won't move to eliminate it, but, you know, again, it's just how many 85% of your transports are basically emergency?
85% of the emergency transports are either covered by Medicare, which is an untapped funding source, and by HMOs.
Now, how many of your patients that you carry are eligible for Medicare?
35% of those, according to the testimony provided by Mr. McMillan,
So
3 or 4 years ago.
So 35% of the people that you transport under an emergency condition,
Yes,
under emergency call, are eligible for
Medicare.
30. And what is the total? What is the your total emergency transports then?
We average approximately 16,000 per year.
16,000 per year, and 35% of that would be
Yes.
eligible for reimbursement
Yes.
by Medicaid. Okay, and so
85% of that total are either covered by Medicare and or
health insurance.
HMOs.
Health insurance. But then the health insurance then determines whether or not they're going to
Yes,
say
sir.
it's an emergency or not.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. And it depends on whether they get admitted, you know, and so forth, all of these conditions. So we may, I'm just trying to figure out what will we generate really? I know what we'll bill, you know, because we just bill everything now based upon this, but what will we actually generate and collect? And is this the best way to do that, given what I think, and I agree definitely with Senator Shimizu, you know, my good colleague, that there are people out there that will be deterred from seeking, you know, to get to the hospital as quickly as possible for emergency medical care because of this. You know, I think you understand that. We all understand that. So if it's a matter of $1,000 or $1 million a year, we've just increased your budget allocation by that amount, allow you to do the standby services, all of these that are not emergent care, and so forth, and try to figure out a better way to deal with the resources required for emergency medical treatment. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Pangilinan. Again, we're on page 13. Senator Espaldon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to find out, after hearing Speaker Pangilinan on his line of questioning and his concerns, I guess the question that comes to my mind is, what do we charge right now? Right now, under the proposed fee schedule, we have it at $195 for the emergency transport. Do we charge anything right now?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. So it's a drastic change. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Espaldon. Senator Judy Guthertz.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions, and welcome to our fire department friends. The health insurance companies for years have charged their members for ambulance services as part of the premiums that the persons pay. I'm talking about GovGuam employees, retirees, etc. But they have never been billed for ambulance service. Is that correct?
We have never billed anyone for ambulance
Right.
service.
But I hope everyone here knows that they build into their cost for their premiums a fee for ambulance services. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of that, ma'am.
Yeah. I'm concerned about ensuring that the health insurance companies are billed when you carry their clients.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you folks, as Senator Pangilinan brought up earlier, if you folks are going to be able to deal with the health insurance companies to ensure that they comply with the new fees that will be charged to them for carrying their members on the ambulances. Are you prepared for that?
Well, Senator, that's certainly something that we can look into and get a dialogue with the HMO various agencies so that we can come to an agreement of some sort to whatever issue that they have to resolve whatever
Right.
is needed to be addressed.
My concern is that I hope the health insurance companies on Guam don't turn around and try to increase their premiums under the guise of your fee schedule. Because my understanding is that they already charge their members in their premiums for potential ambulance services, but they are never billed for it. And this has been going on for 40 years, 30, 40 years on Guam. So we need to keep our eyes open on that one. But you may need some help when you deal with the health insurance companies. These folks are very sophisticated. And their whole persona is to not have to pay as much as they can. That's why our hospital has had difficulty, but it's improved in its collections with health insurance companies. But you folks may need some help from the hospital to assist you in this new venture that you're going to be moving towards. Another question I have, Mr. Chairman, is like Senator Pangilinan and other senators here, we don't want to see someone turned away who needs emergency ambulance service. And you need to ensure this legislature. If someone is in an accident, if someone is having a problem at home or at work, a health issue, and they need immediate medical care, that you're not going to ask them if they have health insurance or if they have money in their pocket to pay for an ambulance, are you?
Senator, we're going to give you assurance right here that those services will never be denied. It will be given out to the community.
That's what we want to hear. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Guthertz. Senator Palacios?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps maybe the staff from the fire department can explain for the benefit of the listening audience. I understand that this fee structure, there were attempts in the past, probably as far back as 1994, and probably could you enlighten me more, I guess, what seem to be the obstacles that, 13 years ago, and now it's 13 years into that it has not come about, and perhaps you can clarify some of these things. First, the attempts in the past and what obstacles, why did until now, until this moment, it has not passed, and everybody seems to be convinced that there's a need to implement some of this to at least to recover some of the costs that the people of Guam are right now paying into this, so that the services, of course, can be continued. Especially these fees are actually going to go back to the flame funds, which is a fire department managed funds. Could you explain, please?
Yes, sir. Well, the proposed fees for the fire department was first brought about in 1993, 1994, under then the head of Public Safety Committee, Senator Pilar Lujan. It authorized us to conduct, through the AAA requirements, hearings to set these fees and fines. It included fines in itself. Well, the fire department did conduct a public hearing. As a matter of fact, it was 2 public hearings, and it was only for non-emergency transports at that time. However, in the process of conducting the public hearings, we were getting public outcry. People from various, even the radio, we even had talk shows. We even appeared on talk shows. And the number one question that always came about was not that we were charging fees. The question was, why aren't we charging for emergency transport? And the reason why they were asking that is because the fire department at that time did not have sufficient amount of ambulances or trained personnel to provide the standard of care that we do provide now in itself. So after that public hearing, eventually the only thing that came out of the legislation that was passed and signed into law was the fines portion. The fees was never addressed. For the previous legislatures we have submitted, I have no idea why it was never no action was taken whatsoever, but I do know that we've attended various public hearings here and outside of this hall in regards to these fees. I can't pinpoint why basically it was never entertained.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Palacios. So that's everyone here in page 12 and 13. No other comments or questions on page 12 or 13. We move along to page 14, which is Article 2, Inspection and Citation Program, Chapter 1, Fee Schedule for Inspections and Standbys. On Chapter 1. Oh, Senator Lujan. An amendment on Chapter 1? Where we are in Article 2, Chapter 1, Inspection and Citation Program. Page 14. We were in page 12. Do you have any comments on Article 2, Chapter 1? Okay. Okay, so in Article Chapter 2, Chapter 1, going once, going, gone. Chapter 2, and this says Chapter 2 may be found attached as Appendix A. So take a look at page 24, folks. Page 24 is Appendix A, which is aerosol products. So Chapter 2, aerosol products. Okay, moving along. Senator Pangilinan, we're in Chapter 2.
Yeah. Is there what's the authority for charging for these kind of? Is there uniform fire code requirements or anything at all that says these kind of issues should be regulated, charged for? Or did we decide that this is just something?
Yes, Senator. There is a code that we follow, and that's NFC code. And I'll have Captain San Nicolas explain more on that.
Yeah, my name is Captain Nicholas, and we adopted the Uniform Fire Code, which also mimics the National Fire Codes. These are standards that help agencies like the fire department and organizations establish regulatory requirements in order for clients or the general public that are in the business of storing plastics, removing asbestos material. As part of life safety, we regulate how it's removed and inform additional authorities or other government authorities on the activity that's going on. And the purpose for that is to ensure that whatever that's out there, that we are constantly, in a sense, aware of what's happening and what kind of products that we go to in the event there is a fire. So by permitting the establishment or the client, that gives us an idea of what is stored in Home Depot, Ace Hardware, Payless, Bureau Chemicals, and our code allows us to regulate that. But again, in order for us to ensure that they maintain that standard of what is required by the code, we have to go out there and we permit them, saying you're allowed to bring in only 10 pounds of asbestos material. And that gets brought in, so we get informed. We inform other agencies that deal with this product, and that shows that there's a control. We know what's coming in.
The fee schedule was because these are the first time you're charging. This is a brand new fee schedule. There's no history on cost or anything at all. Are these patterned or set, based on some factor? Or?
Yes, basically, sir. When we came up with this fee schedule, we went on a comparison basis. We collected data from other fire departments of the same, probably geographical makeup, population, and but most importantly, hazards, buildings, and such. And that's how we derived this particular fee itself, which we justify through cost recovery. This basically does not address what it takes for the salary of an individual to be out there. What it takes actually the research work to be done to come up with this permitting, the inspection process before we actually issue out the permit. That's how we derived this particular figure here.
Because this is basically
but it's new, totally new.
Yeah, and this is basically akin to a business license.
Yes, sir.
With the fire department.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to see, in order for the person to bring this in, he's also have to have a business license. So
yes, sir.
His business license costs him $40. This will cost him $35 on top of that.
It depends on the quality or the product
quantity.
he or she is bringing and the quantity itself.
Right.
Itself. If it brings it in bulk, of course, it may be regulated by the Uniform Fire Code. Okay. Whatever is regulated by the Uniform Fire Code.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Pangilinan. So, no other speakers on Chapter 2. We go on to Chapter 3, the fee schedule for occupancy clearance, facility value fee on page 14 and on page 15. Senator Gutherts, we are in Chapter 3 on the facility value fees.
Mr. Chairman, my question is not so much on the fee, but on the way the fire department evaluates the occupancy of our schools. Our schools. How often do you conduct your inspection of the schools for compliance with the fire code?
The schools are inspected biannually. We do a special Prevention Week activity that's set on October, and it is when we go all full force to all the different schools, not only for the education program, but also to see the issues that are dealt with the school. Also the task force for the pre-opening of the schools, then of course their annual inspections that we come around. We normally work together with the engine companies that are that are assigned to that area that oversees that school, and they also give us information as to when they visit the school for a pre-planning of the facility. They let us know what's happening. We coincide with them and the same thing. So it's around 3 to 4 times.
Would you say that at this point in time, all of our 30-plus public schools are in compliance with the fire code in terms of fire extinguishers, fire alarms, working fire alarms, and all the other requirements?
I think 30% are in compliance.
30%?
Yes. And there are other issues. The main bulk of the schools are fire alarm systems that require finance to reprogram the schools. Of course, we are in Typhoon Alley, so to speak, so it plays havoc to a lot of the electrical equipment. And then we go back there and we try to work together with them. We provide fire watch programs. We provide schools with information in regards to how to safely evacuate the kids at the same time. Alternate means of informing or notification of the students. We work with them in fire extinguishers and any kind of hazard, basically, that we see that may pose a threat to the student or to the staff.
Okay, but at this point in time, just for the record, Mr. Chairman, you said about 30% of our total public schools, which is less than 8, are in compliance with our fire code, full compliance.
Full
Correct.
compliance.
That concerns me because of potential dangers and safety issues. My other question is, are there fire hydrants working at or near all of our public schools?
That's the question. We got a survey. on that. One of the activities within our fire stations throughout the island is hydrant maintenance. And that will be one of our target area to be concerned that those water fire hydrants are operative. And if such an event to the point where we actually go to the site, to the fire hydrant, open up the discharge valve, and open up the water to see if that water comes out. Again, with the prescribed pressure. Should there be any defective found by our units out there, we report this to Waterworks for their immediate attention for them to be corrected.
And of course, Waterworks has said they're not maintaining any of the fire hydrants because they claim they're not getting paid the monies that should be paid to them to do that. So my point is just to frankly make it known to the community that we may have a problem with compliance with the fire code at all of our schools, which you acknowledged. And secondly, that we may have a problem with the fire hydrants adjacent to or on the school premises. And I bring this forward because I think, Mr. Chairman, that we have to somehow make this a priority in our funding for the fire department. That we need to make sure our schools are in compliance with the fire code, because God forbid if there's ever an incident where children get hurt or staff or teachers get hurt. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Gutherds. I'm going to request from the body, again, a very good point, Senator, but what I'd like to, those are issues for an oversight, but I'd like to really focus on, we have these certain fees in place, and if we can focus our discussions on the fees. Okay, thank you very much. Again, we're in Chapter 3. Senator Pangilinan on Chapter 3.
Yeah, just I guess I'm looking over the different charges here. And for example, like on page 39, you have a charge for temporary membrane structures, tents, and canopies for the purpose of commercial use or storage. You're now requiring
that this pertains to business establishments, sir.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
But if I want to put up like a nursery, now a nursery who puts up a shade tent, basically, you're telling me that he now has to get a fee for putting up a canopy in a nursery, a plant nursery?
Yes, he is required, in addition to requesting for him to submit an application for the use, we also look at the product type, the flammability rating, is it non-combustible, is it combustible, and so forth. We look into what is being placed on the product, what's placed on the piping, and then what kind of retardancy rating it has. That based on the permit, it just says temporary membrane, and so anything can be temporary in that sense. With tarps, the silver tarps that we have, the white tarps, and so forth. And then there is a limit in regards to the square footage. Anything less than 200 square feet, I believe.
Yeah, that's like 10 by 20.
Yeah.
You know, so a 10 by 20 canopy.
We won't charge anything less than that.
But if he puts up a 10 by 30,
Then we look into the product.
and you
we
charge. It just, I mean, again, that is, it just seems like.
Well, again, we look into this because we have events that, example, we have the Guam Micronesian Island Fair, we have the Japan Festival. They have huge canopies that are temporary membranes. They do meet retardancy, but their coverage is in excess of.
So now every time somebody puts up a tent, like the Guam Micronesian Island Fair, he has to get a permit now.
Yes, and they do. We just don't charge them now.
Now you require them
No,
a permit?
we in the past we've never charged for, like I said, for permits. They've always applied for. They've always applied for the permit. We've given them the permit. We've never charged for the permit.
Oh man, I mean we're trying to help small business here, not kill them. And I'm just like, I guess I'm overwhelmed by the all-encompassing, regulations here with regards to. Now, you turn left, you're going to have a charge. You turn right, you're going to have a charge. It's going to put a damper on business folks. I understand why we want to do it, but we're not trying to fund the operations of the fire department from just fees. I mean, that's why they pay taxes. That's why they, and how much? What would this generate now, Mike, with all these new fees based upon your current activity?
On the permits itself?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, permitting, Senator, or all the fees from the fire department? Oh, permitting.
The permits itself.
Exhibit 1, I guess. The
Permits
inspection for occupancy permits, all
permits
of that.
itself basically is about $17,000 just for permits itself. Yes, that's just for permits. Now, I want to clarify something about permits, sir, what's shown here. Mind you now, there are some businesses that have a consolidation or more than one of the permits that are required. However, we just charge one permit itself. One permit, one fee permitting them to conduct business on all the others that are shown here. So if an individual comes in here to a retail business to sell, he already has a permit for to conduct a retail business. He comes in, but it's to include storing of propane, gas. It's just to conduct the business itself, $35. And so it's not a combination or consolidation of all the permits into one fee. Yeah.
If he's going to store propane and then he's going to store nitrate, he has to get another permit for that.
Permits, however, the fee will remain at $35 itself. Because when he came in to apply for a business license, he applied to conduct business on both items itself.
Okay.
Yes. So that's the way the permitting process goes.
Except
now,
for
this permitting process, however, comes up where an individual applies for business license, let's say, to store LP gas. Then he comes in later on, about maybe 6 months later, and wants to change it to add on. Then we add on this additional cost.
Okay, thank you. Except for those that say each occurrence.
Yes.
Then those would be every time.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Pangolin. We're still in Chapter 3, Occupancy Clearance. Senator Palacios.
On the same, I guess, on the temporary membrane, 200 square feet that's a 10 by 20 canopy. in it. And you know, we have this canopies over here by the cathedral. Those small businesses that set up shops over there, of course, at the flea market, especially. You know, I like, Mr. Chairman, to move that this be stricken.
Okay, your motion is to strike.
Whatever that is, the temporary membrane structure, tents and canopies for the purpose of commercial use or storage.
On page 39, right?
Yes, sir. On page 39. I guess regardless of the size for now, probably we can take this up later on. But you know, it's easy to set up a 400 square feet. Actually, you just get 20 by 20, and you have a 400 square feet. And nowadays, those canopies are 20 by 40. Now that's 800 square feet. So
Okay.
this is going to be complicated.
Sure. What I see here on Exhibit 1 in page 39, there's a schedule here, and there's spraying or dipping, and then there's the next one is temporary membrane structures.
That's the one that I moved to strike.
Okay, so there's been a motion to delete on page 39, Exhibit 1 of the Guam Fire Department Schedule Fees and Charges, the classification for fees for temporary membrane structures, tents, and canopies for the purpose of commercial use or storage. So there's been a motion made by Senator Palacios. If there's no objection, okay.
Objection.
Senator Espadon on the motion made by Senator Palacios to delete temporary membrane structures, tents, and canopies for the purpose of commercial use or storage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just point of information, Senator, if
Would
I
you
may
like-
ask Senator Palacios the basis of the motion.
Senator, would you care to?
Yes, actually
Senator.
now you almost you know, it only costs about $10 to set up canopy at the flea market every Saturday. Now if you have a 10 by 20, you're going to pay $20 additional. It's double the fee to use the facility. And this is hard on the small business that only do this on weekend. And this is for each occurrence. This is not an annual permit. So every time you set up, and then of course it says of course it exempts parties, funeral, and so forth. But then it says it does include canopies erected at the flea market and the swap meet. And we have this now. This is every day. You know, the small businesses, the peddling license and so forth, they rely on this. And I'm just saying, let us not charge now. Maybe later we can consider this, but for this, there's so many already new fees here that I guess the department really would be very happy if at least half of this pass, from nothing to at least, you know. And I'm just saying that this one, that's why I make the motion.
Okay, thank you. Senator Espadon, does the amendments author, does it answer your questions? Okay, Senior Senator Pinko.
Okay, just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, we're talking right now purpose of just commercial use, right? It's not
that is,
for.
it, continue?
Okay, it is not for any like use at home or. Okay, this is just for commercial use, and what's being mentioned earlier is that we're concerned that perhaps people that are now putting up their canopies at the flea market that are considered right or commercial, that these are the people that would have to pay. Is not my interpretation right on that? Maybe the
Would you
main
care
mover
to-
of the motion can.
Would you care to
Can
ask
you-
a question, pose a question to the author of the amendment, or to
Yes,
the,
I would like to ask the mover of the motion.
would the mover care to yield to the question by the senior senator?
Yeah, according to this, you look at this, it says here, it does include canopies erected at a licensed flea market and swap meet. And I would think that even canopies over here in Agana, at all the parks for which they have license or permit from Department of Parks and Recs, they may be chargeable. So,
isn't that exception though? It says there exceptions.
Free market.
so we got to make sure, and I mean that's what I'm saying.
There's no charge as far as
The exception.
for purpose of camping, parties, funeral services, and garage sales.
No, but the
Does
flea-
include
yeah.
canopies erected at a licensed flea market swap meet.
It includes.
Does include, yeah, as far as the
Only
exception is
exceptions.
concerned.
With the exception.
Okay, so I'm reading it a different way because it says exception for the purpose so when it says it does include, then that means it excludes.
Also, that's an exception. Oh, so I can understand where you're
See what-
confused. The language is very clear. So
Yeah.
the language there actually exempts the market swap meets, flea
Right.
markets.
Correct.
So just strike off the word does and put a comma there and say comma
Yes.
includes canopies erected so that it falls within the exception provision.
Yes, okay. I think the gentleman needs to withdraw his original motion
I
and
think
make another
There's a
amendment.
recommendation to withdraw the original motion. Would you like to withdraw the original motion and come up with language that would be clear to what your intent is? Senator? Or no,
okay,
Senator,
yeah.
again, there's
I withdraw the motion if we can.
Tell you what, go ahead, continue.
I withdraw the motion if really I misread it in a different way, but because these are two separate sentences. I just want to make sure that which says for the purpose of camping, parties, flea market, swap meet, and so forth, it should be all in one sentence then. And if that is done like that, then of course I withdraw my original motion. But somebody has to make a correction then on that
Actually,
one.
you know what, look, recommendation, if you took out does include, and after garage sales put a comma.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So why don't you withdraw the amendment?
I withdraw the amendment, Mr. Chairman.
If there's no objection to withdraw the amendment,
I withdraw the motion.
Yeah, no objection.
if there's no objection to withdraw the
Yeah.
amendment of the by the speaker, okay, no objection. Okay, amendment is withdrawn. I do know Senator Lujan is next in line. So with it, I think you're going to correct it, right, Senator Lujan?
Go ahead. I yield.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Palacios. Senator Lujan. We are still on Chapter 3.
Okay, first let me make a comment, then I can make the correction as well. In regards to commercial use here, and I understand that again businesses that erect canopies again will be charged, but say for example there is an event happening, say at a Ganya Shopping Center, there's a fun run or whatever that's happening, and businesses early morning are going to provide gifts or whatever to the participants, and that morning they erect canopies. Would they have to again still pay that fee, or would that be included as part of that nonprofit applying for that daily event?
Your question is, should a nonprofit organization come forward and, or any organization want to conduct an activity at the premises, let's say Gannett Shopping Center?
Yeah, yes. Or any facility, the mall and things like that, right? Okay, and it's a fun run event in the morning, a 5K, and as part of a sponsorship, they come out, and rather than, because the malls are not open at that hour, so they bring not necessarily products to sell, but they're giving out drinks and or whatever freebies that they're giving out. Would those particular businesses again, or would they fall under a sponsorship from that nonprofit?
Normally, the permit for the temporary memory would be for commercial use.
Okay.
And so nonprofit organizations and so forth. They may request for a waiver to the fire chief on the permit fee or so
but
forth.
Would it be that particular company, or would it be the sponsor of that event?
It would normally be the sponsor of the event, because they're the one that carries the liability coverage for the event and so forth. They're the one that's setting up all the programs, getting the event coverage, and getting it all organized.
Okay. Now, another question. Store A is celebrating their 10th anniversary, inviting everybody to come in. They're having they put a canopy out there, having drinks, celebrating. They're not selling anything, but because they're a commercial establishment, and because they're celebrating their 10th anniversary, whatever anniversary it is, they're celebrating, and they erect the canopy out there to give drinks to people who happen to patronize. Because they're a commercial establishment, they would have to get a permit for that, or
No, but again, it's based on the event type or
Okay.
whatever activity. You mentioned some fundraising, weddings, or so forth.
yeah, no. I'm talking about a commercial. Okay, I have a store. Okay, I'm company A here, and I'm celebrating my 10th anniversary. Okay, and as a result of celebrating my 10th anniversary this weekend, I'm inviting the people of Guam to come on down and celebrate with us. And I erect a canopy in front of my facility, and I have drinks out there and sandwiches, whatever like that.
No, we're not, because originally the establishment has a business license to
Yeah.
operate and sell.
Okay.
So no, we would not.
They wouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, Yeah, that's the way it's written. Yeah, I don't see how it would be waived for that. That's why I'm saying I need a clarification on that. Can I defer to the lawyer? Delete it. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, why don't you?
Okay. Okay. Okay, Mr. Chairman, then. Okay.
You still have the microphone, Senator Lujan.
Rather than making a correction there and the language being as such, and I guess we can come back to this. My motion then is to delete that section, temporary membrane structure, stands, and canopies. My motion is to delete that
Okay.
section.
Okay, and if there's no objection, okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Temporary membrane structure, tents, canopies.
Yeah, in the deletion of that, Mr. Chairman, are we then deleting 10 or air supported membrane more than 200 square feet and also canopy over 400 square feet?
Yes, we are.
So that entire box there
It's gone.
is
It
gone.
is nada. Okay? So that is gone. We've dispensed. We're still in Chapter 3. If there's no other comments or questions in Chapter 3, we're still in Chapter 3, Senator Palacios. You spoke on Chapter 3.
On the wood products.
No. Oh, you want to talk on wood products?
Oh, that's another complicated area too, Mr. Chairman. To store chips, this
Okay.
is for the firewood.
Okay. Sure. Okay, and commercial products. Continue, Senator Palacios. So we're talking wood products? Senator Palacios.
How about those businesses now that sell lumber? In addition to the business license, do they still pay to store those again? Because that's part of the business, right?
That's part of the business.
So give me an example of when this would apply. And it says here, let me see. It's not for commercial use or anything. I'm trying to look at the title here. And it just say the storage of wood products.
The wood products, in regards to permitting, on the mainland, they have storage facilities that they buy wood products from a factory or from a manufacturing, a lumber company, and they store it at a specific site. So the regulatory part is to ensure that there's no fire issues on that lot that they've rented to store their product. That's where this comes along. For commercial use, such as Benson, Eons, hardwares, and so forth, when we go into the business license, we inspect the building as a whole. So therefore, we don't charge them for that. We look into the safety aspect and how they're storing, how they're stacking it, and so forth. But the way the text is written from here, it probably derived from the mainland, where you buy a huge quantity and you have a storage lot that you put it in.
Yeah. But do you think this one applies to Guam?
Well, I believe the minimum is 100,000 board feet. So I don't know if we have a lot of.
No, this one here is 200,
200,000.
200 cubic feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably this affect a lot of households, domestic households.
You gotta explain the typo.
Sir, I think this is a typo error. It is 1,200 cubic feet. There
About
is a typo.
What volume is that? Could you just, I mean, could you give us an idea? What volume is that? I mean, is that half of this
1,200.
chamber?
No, but the example, give an example. No, but example here. It's something like Benson storing outside, all those numbers outside. Something like that. Yeah, inside.
They put it.
That's an example.
They stack it on the side of on the corner of the property.
A lot of gubernatorial candidates will be affected right after the election.
No, but those are benches, sir, and tables.
And plywood. Okay, I just want to make sure that this really does not affect the domestic household. Where we store excess lumber and those things. So that's why I raised this.
Yes, it will. Household product, it would not exceed that cubic yards here.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
thank you very much, Senator Palacios. Senator Lujan noted something on wood products. I think that changed. Senior Senator, would you care to? Will the senior senator allow the? Okay. Thank you, Senator Lujan.
Thank you, Senior Senator. If I heard right, you had said that there's a typo here, and rather than 200 cubic feet, it's supposed to be 1,200, right? So I think we need to reflect that here because this is an official document here.
Okay,
basically,
there's
so
a technical error here then.
technical error. So rather than 200, it says 200 cubic feet. It's supposed to be. The chief had said it's supposed to be 1,200 cubic feet instead of. Okay, so that.
I just want to make
has
note
to
of
be
that,
changed.
folks in the back, clerk. On wood products, there's a mistake. It's not 200 cubic foot, it's 1,200 cubic feet. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that motion, no objection. Okay, Senator Ampinko.
Okay, just a clarification. When we talk about wood products, even those wood products that are stored inside the warehouse, those are these are the fees that we have to be paid. And the other thing is, can you give us or give me an idea as to how big is 1,200 square cubic feet? How big is that? Is it? I think that question was raised earlier. Is it as big as this hall here, the legislative hall, or smaller?
Gosh, sir, I'm not. But it is quite probably half of this particular hole here. I don't have my.
Okay, half of this hole here.
Yes.
Now, are we talking about this?
We're talking about commercial use, sir.
Yes, but
Commercial
what
use.
about the all these products being stored inside a warehouse? Are they? You're going to be charging them?
No, that is
We're
already
not
met.
talking about the outside, right?
Yes, sir.
We are talking about the outside. If they were to be placed outside the main structure,
Outside of the structure that has already been pre-approved or approved by the fire department to be occupied.
you know why I'm raising this question? Because right before it, you have the storage, and you say outdoor. Okay, this is a box by itself. To use and open and our position thereof to shore to store tires in excess of 1,000 cubic feet. But then you have the following one here. It says wood products, but it didn't say whether it's inside or outside or what. On the previous box here, it says outdoor.
Yeah, I take that back, sir. The wood products are either stored in or outside of the building.
And they still have to pay $35.
That's the annual
Fees?
Yes, sir. And that's permit for you to conduct business as that.
And what is this $20 each occurrence? Occurrence of what?
Well, there's some business establishments that do not operate as a lumber yard that would store 1,200 cubic feet of lumber within the premises itself, which is a fire hazard to begin with, and require permits. So that it pertains to that particular business. This is, sir, is in addition to what you have already been permitted or charged to operate as.
So if they do have a 1,200 cubic feet,
Yes,
all they have to pay annually is $35.
Yes, sir. If that is not
But if they were
included-
to, but
Yes, sir.
if they were to replenish it, does that means that that's an occurrence?
No, no,
and
no,
therefore
sir.
you're going to add another $25.
No, it's an annual. It's an annual amount. Now,
No,
if-
you said here though, right on
yes,
the bottom.
each occurrence is okay. I'll give you a very probably a good example. PLS, let's say, they're not licensed for lumber yards or even to sell wood products whatsoever. So they bring in 1,200 cubic foot of lumber to store there, probably for commercial purposes whatsoever. Then they need a permit, and we have to charge them for that occurrence because it is not part of their annual permit or license. This is only for people or commercial businesses that do not get permit or license to operate as that, but want to store that particular.
Well, my concern here is, I understand where you're coming from on this now, but if you didn't explain that to me,
Okay.
I won't.
Yes.
I won't understand. I won't have understood. What was presented. But
Yes, sir.
in the implementation of this, what I'm afraid of is the interpretation of people that would read it later on, and you need to specify more as to what you're saying here, because
Yes.
if I were, let's say, working for the Guam Fire Department, and then a new person, and I sort of have the responsibility of going out inspecting, right? When I see this rules, it's an open end. I say, okay, I would charge the $20 each occurrence, and it didn't matter whether they're licensed to sell, wood products, or whether it would be Benson, or whether it would be Payless. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That the interpretation is free here, rather than you need more language in here to make sure that your intent is actually fulfilled.
Yes. I would just like to explain the fee schedule here. These are basically just, in general, what was taken out of the Uniform Fire Code. Just a basic heading itself. In detail and specifically, it is inclusive or included in the Uniform Fire Code. So whenever anyone comes in and requests for a permit, we show them the Uniform Fire Code, the requirements set forth, and it explains in detail what is needed and why it is needed. But this in itself are just headings, general headings in itself. But the actual as to who we are to charge and who as to how much, that again is based on the code itself.
So the last column there, that explained that says Title 10 GCA,
Yes, sir.
Section 73.
Yes, sir. That's the section.
111. And then the one that's to do with the $20 each occurrence is the UFC Article
No,
30.
the entire reference material, Title 10, Section 7311, UFC Article 30 refers to as a reference to the entire box there.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you so much, Senior Senator. Senator Pangilinan?
Yeah, again, I'm just kind of trying to just see where we're kind of compounding, costs to a person doing business. So if I look at page 38, Chief, and under repair garages, right there on page 38, second box from the bottom, it says to use a structure as a place of business for servicing or repairing motor vehicles. There's a $35 annual renewal charge. So I have a garage. I'm going to use it. You come out and you inspect it to make sure it meets the fire code. Now there's a charge for that.
Yes, sir.
New.
Yes, sir.
So you come out and you say, okay, everything's fine. It meets the Uniform Fire Code. You have your systems in place. You know, if it's sprinkler required, you verify that the sprinkler's working and it's in there. Exits and egress for fire exits. All of that you certify that it meets the fire code. And you charge him a fee now for that, based upon the value of the structure and so forth, according to the new one. Then, let's say I'm a garage owner now. Then, on top of that, paying you the inspection fee to certify everything, I now have to pay you a $35 license fee in order to conduct business as a garage?
That will be revenue tax.
No, no. Here, it says 35 annual renewal.
No, you pay us for the permits. Now, the license itself to conduct business.
I know, but there was no. What I'm saying is, I pay you to do the inspection. Is that a separate charge?
No, it's all part of the permitting fee.
Okay, so the and so this $35. What is? How do you assess this $35 here? Annual renewal.
Well, like I said, we came about with these figures.
No. How do you assess this?
Pardon?
Tell me when I would have to pay this $35.
After we issued you the permit.
You issue me the permit.
Then you pay the $35.
Do I have to pay you to inspect the facility?
No. It's all inclusive. Everything to include building plans and everything is inclusive in that permitting fee.
Okay. That's what I want to understand.
Yes, sir.
So I send you my plans, you review the plans, you come out, you inspect the facility, and then that's a $35 charge.
Yes, sir.
But in this, in the front part...
No, I take that back, sir. That is if just to get the permit itself. Now, if you have a new building or renovated building, and it requires plan reviews, then it falls on the occupancy clearance fee itself. Yeah. That includes the permits that are shown $35 here in the back. It includes that already.
It includes that?
Yes, sir.
And then the next year, I have to pay you another
$35 for that particular, just for that.
That's what I mean.
Yes,
I have to pay you now a $35 fee to conduct business as a garage.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. And then I have to buy a license at Rev Tax to do business as a garage.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I understand. I'm just, I'm not very. It's like, you know, we're just tearing up costs, and I understand the need for it, and I fully understand the planned inspection and the site inspection, because you do want any area accessible to the general public to make sure that it's safe to go in that building and conduct business in that building, but you know we're tearing all these costs to doing business on Guam, and we're trying to make it easier to do business. Now, it may be easier, but it's just going to be more costly, and I don't know which is the bigger deterrent. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Pangilinan. Again, we were still in Chapter 3, and he was discussing. Anyway, Senator Shimizu.
Thank you, Mr. We're about finished. But just a quick question. All these fees that we have, is this also applicable to government entities, instrumentalities, and so forth? For example, what the good senator was just talking about, repair shops. They have repair shops. They have containers of, for example, over 4,000 gallons aggregated water capacities. Is this only to non-government entities that your fees for inspections and certifications?
Yes, sir.
So it's not going to, you're not going to go like, for example, Guam Water Works Authority. It just jumped out at me, and I got splashed when it says container over 4,000 gallons aggregate. The only person that I can think in terms of volume of water containers could be, 4,000 and above. So it doesn't apply to like Guam Water Works or any of the. It would apply to GPA in terms of how they can, store their transformers and so forth. Because you want to make sure that it's not a breeding ground for potential combustion and then fire, right? So why would you not include them in that?
Is there any? Well, in regards to autonomous agencies, sir, I personally feel that if I can get charged for them to provide GFD with services, then I in turn should charge for the services we provide.
But right now, in
But
this
online
scenario that you're
agencies,
presenting to the
This
body,
is still open. The
so
uniform.
I gave you I gave you the thought flash that that might be parity
Yes.
that we're looking at.
Yes,
Just
sir.
just watan na
Yeah.
and para isti fees ni para public safety na banda, fire prevention na banda, pues kung todo gobyerno na banda guaha siya aktividad ni sinya ineffectam zo.
Okay.
So atan isti siya magi ko if offered some recommendation munget loki mu regulate or inspect isti siya na because industrial activity and all
Yes.
loki transformers and todo no
Yes, sir.
it's gana iti kumulapsi hanung gulog is a bargada manilo potom for a 1 million gallon na tank na pues I just wanted to
Yes.
do a power check here. So there's no, this fees is restricted to only the private sectors, and the government or the autonomous agencies are not,
Right.
it's not applicable to that.
They're not
However, you're considering recommending,
No, on the Uniform Fire Code, the authority having jurisdiction has that authority itself. to
but you
charge
don't
fees.
collect the money.
We have yet to even collect any fees.
No, but if
whatsoever.
this was passed, as
But
it is
rest-
today, you will not be able to still collect from some of the other entities that are non-private. In fact, they're almost quasi-government in that extent.
Yes, I can see probably the line agencies. However, with the autonomous agencies, which charge us for services they provide, then yes,
So you would consider
yes, sir.
putting in an amendment to the effect that through the good chair that
Yes. Basically, there is
some
no-
provisions
yes.
here that will say this is applicable to
Yes, sir.
the autonomous agencies that you know,
Yes, sir.
because I don't know how you know how much work you guys do with them, and because you still get called when
Yes, sir.
they store. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Shimizu. We're still in section chapter 3. If no other comments, questions, we move along on to chapter 4, collections of fees and fines on page 15. And it goes through page 16. Okay, nothing, no speakers on chapter 4. Chapter 5, Senator Espadon, are you in 4 or 5? Chapter 4, Senator Espadon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question. I mean, I noticed that fines should be paid at the Traffic Violations Bureau of the Superior Court of Guam. Is that a normal? Is that what's happening now? Page 15 under Chapter 4, under item number 1 on line number 8, under payments, permits should be paid at the one stop, but the fine should be paid at the Superior Court. Is the court aware of that?
Your question about the traffic bureau?
Yeah, I mean, my question is that I noticed the fines that you
Yes,
will
sir.
levy will be paid at Superior Court.
Yes, sir.
Is
That has already been arranged.
Okay.
Like I said, I can't recollect the law that authorized the fire department to collect fines for violation of any of the Uniform Fire Code.
Okay.
We have worked because violation of the Uniform Fire Code is a misdemeanor in itself, similar
see.
to that of a traffic violation. We have worked with the court system, and we will be implementing it probably in the next month. In regards to issuing out citations, our personnel have just recently completed the process of writing out citations. So in a month or so, we will start issuing out citations, and it will be paid at the Superior Court of Guam, being that it's a violation. It's considered a misdemeanor to violate the Uniform Fire Code.
Okay, and since it's a fine, those fines will get remitted to the fire
Yes,
department?
yes, it has been. There is a memorandum of agreement that's presently being prepared for signature.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Espadon. Again, on Chapter 4, no other speakers in Chapter 4. Chapter 5, inspections. There's no other speakers. Well, we're in chapter 5, inspections. Then we go on to page 17. A, inspections for occupancy clearance. A. Nothing on A. B, in page 18, inspections for new permits. Senator Pangilinan?
Just one question: like, is there a provision in here where I can just call you if I owned a business and I wanted you to, let's say I was going to be renewing my permit and I just wanted to have somebody come in and review and pay you a fee for that? Is there a inspection upon request fee?
No. We do courtesy inspections.
Oh, you do courtesy
Yeah,
inspections?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay. And you don't charge for them?
No, we don't charge for that.
And you don't plan to charge for them?
We don't charge for your courtesy inspections. Anyone that comes out and just ask us to, can you come in and check if our building is compliant? And
Right.
Yeah, we don't charge that. We don't charge courtesy inspections.
Okay.
Yes,
That's very courteous.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Yes,
I like that.
Okay. Such a courteous group. Thank you, Senator Pangilinan. Okay, on nothing else on B, inspection for new permits. Move along to C, inspection for permit renewals, on page 18. Okay, page 19. If nothing on C, we'll move along to D, unannounced inspections for existing permit holders, on page 19. Moving along to page 20. Okay, there's nothing on D. Move along to E, unannounced inspection for others regulated by Uniform Fire Code. We complete with page 21. And with that, we've completed E. We're now at page 22. Article 3, Chapter 1, grace periods for compliance with UFC.
These are buildings.
We're on page 22. Any comments or speakers in A and B? C? If not, move 23. Severability. Severability? Senator Palacios, we are on Article 3. Senator Palacios.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment I'd like to propose to add a new section 2, and of course, we will then make the severability section 3, but I have the amendment. And that is, of course, to provide A, under the new amendment, for a public notification that the Guam Fire Department shall provide proper and timely public notification to the community at large on the newly established fees / fines and penalties pursuant to this act, the public notification of information, and then of course B is the effective date, because
I hope it's written down.
it is.
Oh, I don't have a copy.
Can I pass it out right now? Give me a second.
Yeah, we're going to take a 1-minute recess to pass out the amendment, and then after this amendment has been moved, after we dispense with the amendment, we'll take a lunch break. Okay, let's take a minute recess for the passing out of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Amendment by Senator Palacios. Senator Palacios, continue in your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This would be a new section added to, of course, Chapter 6, Part 2, and that's the fire fee structure. I look at the bill. And this is a standard provision for some of the bills that I already introduced. Our former colleague, Senator Frank Ogden, actually helped me with this language, and it provides for public notification that it shall provide proper and timely public notification to the business community and the community at large on the newly established fees or fines and penalties pursuant to this act, and that the public notification of information shall include but may not be limited to the use of news medias and sources, and it shall be administered, of course, within no later than 45 days. And then, of course, it provides for the effective date that it should take effect no later than 60 days or no sooner than 60 days upon the enactment of this. And for the days here, of course, I'm flexible, but the point here to remember is that there need to be a public notification and that there need to be an effective date. I cannot imagine this being effective in 30 days. too much. And that's my proposal. So if anyone want to make adjustment on the days and periods, I'm fine with that. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. On the Palacios Amendment, Senator Pangilinan? My hearing is getting bad. I'm sorry. Would you believe I didn't hear a word you said? I know Speaker Forbes told me to get a hearing checkup. If it was a joke, I didn't even hear it. I'm sorry. What is that?
No, I think that the ad should be no smaller than the Pardon Our Progress ad.
Thank you very much, Senator Pangilinan. Senator Lujan on the Palacios Amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got no problem with the amendment. I just wanted an amendment to the amendment to include that the fee schedules will also be posted on the GFD website as well. That amendment to the amendment
Okay.
to be included in that.
Yeah, I don't think that requires a written amendment, folks. Clerk,
Does it require that? Just to add it to
that shall be. Can you proffer your amendment verbally one more time?
Okay, just that all fee schedules will be posted in the Guam Fire Department website as well.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
however.
I don't think that needs to be written down.
Yeah.
On the amendment to the amendment by Senator, we're now on an amendment to the amendment, and the amendment is to add on to this particular amendment to be posted on the website, Guam Fire Department website.
No objection to the amendment.
Were you to speak on the amendment to the amendment?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Senator
just the main
Guthertz on
amendment.
the amendment to, and I'm not going to get an amendment to the amendment to the amendment. So, sure, on the amendment to the amendment.
What? Well,
Can you get your? I'm sorry, Senator. I guess I'm getting old, and also you're not using the microphone.
Amendment and the amendment.
No.
Would this include publication on the military bases?
Well, the amendment. Would you like to yield to the? Would the
yes,
author care to yield to the question?
Yes. My concern, Mr. Chairman, is that we want to make sure that the military companies and contractors are aware of these fees also.
Yeah, and that's why, what we can do is that is easily accessible through the GFD website. And so when they publish it, they said that all these fee schedules can be downloaded as well from the GFD website. And I made sure with the fire folks that they do have a website that people can have access to 24 hours a day.
Continue, Senator Guthertz. You have the microphone. Well, actually, the rules are once we've dispensed with this amendment to the amendment, we will go back to the original amendment. And on the original amendment, Senator, I will allow you the microphone. So on the amendment to the amendment, if there's no objection, okay, the amendment to the amendment carries. Senator Respicio on the
Thank you very much.
main amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand what the mover of this amendment is trying to do to inform the residents of this proposed fee changes and to make it effective no later than 60 days when it's enacted. But my biggest question, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to quote verbatim the words of from our senator from Manila, what the heck are we doing here? I thought the whole purpose of this exercise was to address the fee increase and to try to bridge the budgetary shortfall. And we all know what that huge gap is right now. To delay this another 60 days, I believe, Mr. Chairman, that the fire department should then just go through the AAA process. So then by that course, you can have members of the business community. We've been saying this over and over. Every time we address the fee increases, why don't we get this manner done through a public hearing process so that the people who are going to be most impacted, particularly the most vulnerable who rely on these kinds of services, can have a say. This amendment does not provide any recourse for individuals who oppose the fee increase. It just says shall be given notice within 45 days, and after 60 days it shall be implemented. So what are we trying to do here? And maybe rather than objecting to the amendment, I'd like maybe we could talk about this over lunch, or maybe have a brief recess. I'm not particularly opposed. I actually like the amendment because it provides for public notification, but there's no mechanism to register any objections they may have, and we're just going to do it anyway.
Thank you very much, Senator Respecio. Again, we are talking on the amendment by Senator Palacio as amended. On the amendment as amended by Senator Palacios, any other? Senator Gutherds, did you want to speak on this amendment? Senator Gutherds, you wanted to speak on the main amendment. On the Palacios amendment,
Yes.
Senator Gutherds.
Thank you. First, I want to commend my colleague, Senator Palacios. This is a wonderful amendment. However, I would like to somehow, and I'm not sure the best way to do this, but we must now ensure, Mr. Chairman, that our military leaders on Guam ensure that their contractors comply with our licensing and other fee structures.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to recommend that as part of this amendment, that requirement be included that all of the agencies involved who will have their fees approved must communicate officially to the military commands on Guam so that they can inform their contractors of these fees.
Sure. That's a good amendment, but you know what I'm going to request? I'm going to request for that to be written. It was much more simpler, the earlier amendment, on just posting in a website. So I'm going to allow you to make a written amendment to this amendment.
Okay,
And
we will do that.
I give you everyone here a chance to eat lunch, have conversations
come back
with each
with
other,
it.
and we'll come back at 1:30. But then
No
we'll have the
objection.
microphone to you, Senator Gutherds.
Thank you.
And you have an
Thank you.
opportunity.
And my legal counsel will assist.
Okay, so tell you what, we'll come back, recess for lunch at 2 o'clock. Senator Shimizu on the Palacios amendment, as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask a technical question. It says to add a new section. Would that change the severability clause now to be Section 3?
I think what it does is it just pushes a separate. They can be numbered by the clerk.
Okay,
and
I
legal counsel,
want to make
so-
sure that that severability clause is not moved from that. So that the clerk, the legal counsel can
Yes.
do the numerical changes in this. The previous speaker just spoke about the administrative adjudication. Isn't that a process that takes about 45 days? The AAA? You're not familiar? You've never done a...
Turn on the microphone.
Never. Okay. A reason why I asked this is because Senator Palacios had mentioned that he is not adverse to changing the effective date from 60 days to, giving you people more time. Just as a food for thought, it would be my on this amendment in terms of the public notice that you try to be as wide a distribution as you can. Use all. In other words, we don't have to mandate you put it on your web page, put it on a newspaper, because it would be to your best interest. Because this is very voluminous already in terms of the, the public doesn't react to it until they find out later on that this fee is there. So, I would also like to suggest at some point in time that should this pass, that you also have copies of this at your so that your office, so that you can also encourage the public to come in and pick up copies of it, and also encourage on a volunteer basis, similar to that of the administrative adjudication, to still get input, because nothing is written in granite. Only the 10 Commandments on the tablet was on granite. This is, we can, now you get a feel, because while you can say it's tied into the Uniform Fire Code, that's back in the mainland, there may be some unique circumstances or perks that we did not get. So rather than, that's why the severability clause is good. But I would suggest that at the same time that, like you've had on volunteer, is to go ahead and schedule public hearings to educate. It's because one of the reasons why rules and regulations become very effective and efficient, especially when it's dealing with financial matters, is the more you educate people in this area, the more voluntary compliance is. But there may be glitches whereby that we didn't pick up here and you didn't pick up there, that will probably say, look, this might be something you might want to consider. And Mr. Chair, that I like to also suggest that that they also be allowed to be able to submit to the legislature as this growing process. Right now, we're only going through labor pains. Wait till we go through the walking pains of how this will impact the community, especially within the private sector, the business community, when they see all of these fees, that you be allowed to still go through the Administrative Adjudication Act to be able to make those amendments. Because what I would hope would not happen is, kwa gatsong isenetador no siya mo, ay tisina no tato like ka solo matuli papa talugi, that we get away from that, and that you would be proactive. Say, well, yes, there is merits into what you're saying, and we will transmit it to, I'm sure, the good chair to come. So this becomes at least a working document, and will probably have a maturity of at least 1 year before the fees really settle into the community and into the private sector. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Shimizu, on the Palacios Amendment. Senator Wampat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know. I know in your capacity as the chairperson, you may not be able to answer this question. I'm quickly trying to find it right now on my computer in Title 5 about the AAA, because I was trying to figure out a time frame then, because if we're going to make these fees then effective after 60 days after enactment, then I'm wondering whether because you guys mentioned that you've never gone through the process anyway of going through the AAA process to actually bring to the public how much you want to raise, fines or fees or whatever they are. And I'm wondering whether, because I know we're going through this through legislation and that just bypasses the AAA process, whether it would be more helpful, rather than saying, do a public notification, and then effective 60 days, 90 days, no matter what it is, the number of days. I'm wondering whether the best thing instead is a simple language, Mr. Chairman, that could be applicable to all the departments and agencies that have fees, that we shorten the process instead to assist them than going this route. Because I think almost everyone here in this hall has basically asked whether, what was the methodology or the reason behind, the fees or the cost, the increase, and, and many times it's the only argument we've heard is to recoup, whatever has gone into the services in terms of personnel, equipment, and all that. And then I think you've mentioned that in your case, it's only 54% of what it is that, you've, whatever you put in terms of services. So how do you feel? I know you've done this already, and this is part of the governor's, this is part of the government. I'm sorry, did you just miss everything I just said?
I heard it, but this.
Oh. Did you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, then, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to.
It's my hearing.
Put your ear the other way around. So I'm just joking, but I know you've gone through this process with through the governor's office to submit this, and I think maybe everybody else, has done the same thing. How do you feel versus one to go through this whole process, or just shorten or assist you in a way that you'd be able to do this through the AAA process, but shorten the time, this only one time, without, have a sunset time for the AAA process? Would that assist you much more? And maybe you wouldn't get as some resistance maybe from, any of the members here, and maybe even the public, and you'll be able to suffice what the law calls for, you see, to meet what the law calls for.
Yes, ma'am. I have to say that we did go through the AAA process with this when it was first initiated in 1994. At that time, the AAA requirements was that we conduct a public hearing, which we did in 2 occasions. We were involved in talk shows throughout this. And after we had conducted the public hearing, at that time, the requirement was the governor submitted in bill form to the legislature, which then Governor Carl Gutierrez did submit it. And since then, it has been resubmitted to the legislature and even up to this point in time. But we have gone through the AAA process initially on this.
I see then. So, Mr. Chairman, having heard that, I'm beginning to believe now that the stumbling block is this body, because we require them by law to go through the AAA process, and they've done that. And the law actually calls, yes, for the governor to submit it in a bill form, so it comes here, and it's this same body then who has rejected it, and it's no wonder, now you've basically wasted your time, so to speak, in terms of trying to go out and do this. So, I would just like to say then, Mr. Chairman, that yes, I'll go ahead and support. I will definitely support this amendment.
Thank you very much, Senator Wampet. I will make a recommendation that as we proceed and finish up on all these fee schedules, then they're probably, that would be the appropriate time to put a certain language in regards to the enactment date, so there'll be consistency. That's just a recommendation. Okay, thank you very much, Senator Wampet. On the amendment, that's it. On the amendment as amended, Senator Guthers, did you have your amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to withdraw the amendment because I think everything is covered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So again, on the amendment as amended, I think everyone has made, okay. So on the amendment as amended by Senator Palacios, is there any,
No. Can you just, Mr. Chairman, sort of, because we were in recess, right, for about an hour, and can you just update the body in terms of the amendment to the amendment?
the amendment as amended, we had, of course, the amendment that is shown to the members of the body. There was, it wasn't written down, but there was an amendment proffered that would put a, would put the, what was that again?
Website.
Posted on the website, on the Guam Fire Department website. I think that was Senator Lujan that made that amendment, and that amendment passed. And then, of course, that's about it right now. So that's the only amendment to the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Senior Senator. And with that, on the amendment as amended, if there's no objection, okay, amended, carry. Amended amendment carries. There you go. And with that, I would like to thank my colleagues from the Guam Fire Department. We have exhausted all areas of the fee schedule for the fire department. We're going to take a couple of minute recess to bring the rev and tax folks in, and we're going to continue on page 7 where we left off yesterday. Couple of minute recess. Colleagues, there was some confusion in regards to the applications of these licenses in page 7, and there was reference to pages later on. There's been, I think Reverend Tax has clarified some of the questions you all had, so I'm going to allow representatives from the Department of Reverend Tax to clear up some of the confusion that occurred yesterday. So why don't we have George?
Yes, Senator Call, thank you for giving me the time to explain. Yesterday, while we were switching from the mobile liquor licenses, and then it was turned over to me for the retail license, I didn't notice that the statute pertained to tobacco license rather than regular general licensing. And so that is a different matter entirely. And this is why even Senator Wampat was saying the application would it be at that time, because we don't prorate tobacco licenses. And I'd like to explain that that was the oversight on my part, sir, and I apologize for that.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are now on, this is actually 13, which is section 13, page 7. This applies to tobacco. So with that, I'm going to look towards the body. We are now on section 13. Okay, on Senator Ishizaki, we're in section 13.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad we got this clarification because we didn't want to hurt the retail business, but because this is tobacco tax to do, really not a tax, but a tobacco permit to start the business. I feel it's appropriate that we raise that Section A for the annual retail license for tobacco sales from $40 to $200. So okay, how about $100?
Is that an amendment? Is that Senator Shizaki? Is that a fuel, or are you making an amendment?
That was a feel. Okay, so I propose a $100 amendment.
So this is your amendment. So there's an amendment by Senator Shizaki that on Section 13A, the annual retail license will be adjusted to $100. Okay, we are in the Shizaki amendment. I'm looking to members of the body. If there's no objection, okay, no objection. The amendment carries. So we are now we're still on Section 13, going once, twice. Senator Guthertz on Section 13?
Mr. Chairman, yesterday when we began talking about this section, I posed a question to the Director of Revenue Taxation regarding the wholesale exemption. And I'd just like to get a question answered. Although we're looking at Section 13, I did not find anywhere in the governor's submittal a proposal to remove the exemptions, special exemptions to special business interests, including wholesalers. Tax exemptions. Am I wrong there, or am I correct?
What we have before you is just the fees bill.
Just the fees bill.
Pertaining to fees. Hopefully later on we're going to look at exemptions.
Okay, so that will be forthcoming?
We're looking at it.
Okay.
We're looking at exemptions.
Okay. Then, Mr. Chairman, on Section 13, Item B, I'd like to move to increase the fee on the vending machines to $40.
Okay, so there's an amendment proffered by Senator Guthertz on Section 13B. It's now at 20, but to raise it to $40. On the Guthertz amendment, is there any comment? Senator Frank Blas on the Guthertz amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just for some ideas to, do we have any ideas to how much we're getting now based on the current fee that we're getting? And how much are we getting now? I mean, we're not getting anything.
You're getting something.
Yeah, we're looking it up.
We don't get fees for that?
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of order while they're getting that question.
Excuse me, there's still a question posed by Senator Blas. Senator Blas, you're asking a question on what they hope to realize or what they're receiving now?
Let me go and restructure my question. How much do you hope to realize with what you were proposing initially? Just for the vending machine.
Vending machines. See, they're talking about vending machines.
Mr. Chair, I have a point. Based on that question, I have a point of order.
Okay, can we get to the answering the question, then we can get to your point of order?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, to a point of order, please, Senator
Thank you,
Respicio.
Mr. Chairman. I've been repeatedly asking
I know, please
why
continue.
BBMR is not part of this process, and I know that you've agreed to call them in this morning. The good Senator, previous speaker, asked a legitimate question in terms of fees and what these fees will quantify, and ultimately this will impact the budgetary shortfall that we're currently experiencing. So BBMR really needs to be here, Mr. Chairman. I can't believe they've been excused thus far, and their presence is noticeably.
Okay. Anyway, there was a. Thank you very much on your on.
Have you called them, Mr. Chairman?
They have been called.
Are they going to be here?
They should be here.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Respicio. Please continue.
Okay, going back to the vending machines for cigarettes. Right now we have 12 machines at $20. It's $240. So if you double it, it will be $580. $580.
12 machines?
I mean, $480. We have 12 cigarette vending machines. Yes.
12 vending machines.
12 vending machines. And I don't know whether you're able to answer this question. How many packs of cigarettes does a vending machine hold? We don't know. Art?
Can you ask George? Can you answer that, George?
Don't worry, this is something BBR cannot answer, so Rory cannot call it, and Senator Respicio cannot call 4.0.
How many pack of cigarettes?
They're asking how many cigarettes can fit in a. Can you get to the microphone, please? Oy.
Approximately, they can put in a case of assorted cigarette brands.
Case.
A case of assorted
Okay,
cigarette brands.
and can you clarify some confusion that we got here? Do you currently have a cigarette vending license fee? You do, right?
Yes.
How do you what?
Question good.
Yes, we do. Yes.
Okay, well, then I need to turn this because he's the senior senator and he wants to say something.
Senior Senator.
Yes. Isn't there a law right now that that somebody has to, if anybody, that looks kind of young, they have to be carded? In other words, the individual must be 18 years old. And so therefore, does the vending machine have any way to card a person that is young from the...
Part of the law that Public Law 24178 set up was that the vending machine must be visible to the cashier. In other words, it must be placed at a visible place.
Yeah, but a vending machine, George, that means that you're going to put the money in there to get a pack of cigarette. So
but again, it must be placed in an establishment which is usually for adults, such as bars or cocktail lounges, whatever. And again, it's usually invisible.
Okay, I see where you're coming from.
It's not. You can't put it out here.
But how can you discriminate in terms of a bar giving a vending machine license versus a retail store?
Again, usually a retail store would not have a vending machine. Usually it's a bar.
But can you actually discriminate in terms of issuing a license between a bar or a club or a restaurant?
Yes, because as part of that statute, the 24178, it said that the Director of Revenue and Taxation shall investigate the premises to ensure that it meets the prerequisite qualification before it issues the license.
Okay, well, you have clarified it. Thank you.
Yes,
So
and a lot of people.
I thought that it could be you be indiscriminate in terms of placement of the machine itself.
Even the issuance itself, we have one now that wants to get a tobacco license in a container at the public flea market, and he's sort of raising the issue why. I said because it's a control item, it's not a regular merchandise any longer like before, and that's why we don't want to see the flea market. Anybody can just grab it there, and they're selling things in their garage, like a garage sale, and you can't. It's unsupervised, not controlled.
Okay, thank you. That has been clarified, Mr. Chairman. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Senior Senator. Again, we are on the amendment by Senator Gutherz to raise it from $20 to $40. Are there any, if there's no other comments, no objection, amendment carries. Okay. We've dispensed of all section 13. We go into 14. Section 14, which is page 8. Section 14. Senator Ishizaki, section 14.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Consistent with the request from the department, the renewal of licenses date, I guess they want to make it consistent with all other renewal dates. So the current language says the 31st day of March, and I think the department wants to change that to the 30th of June. So I propose that amendment. And then down in the two sections down below on the same page on penalties, the penalty dates are to expire on July 31st. There are two places down there for the 31st of July. Currently it's the 30th of April, so I propose we change that to the 30th of July. Yes, every provision where it says penalties and expiration requirements have to be done by July 31st of that same year.
Speaker, Chairman.
Are you okay? Let's. So you're saying on 6203, the amendment is to
change line 4.
Line 4, which is 31st day of March, to June 30th
of each year.
Of June of each year. That's the First Amendment, correct?
It'd be the 30th day of June.
30th day of June, okay.
Of each year. Okay. 2, 4,
okay,
6,
let's. I'm going to separate this amendment just for. Okay, so on the First Amendment by Senator Ishizaki.
That's a matter of clarification now.
Yes, Senior Senator Pinko.
Okay, this the one on top, we're changing it from March to June. Okay, but then further down, the amendment is from April to June.
I've just divided
I do understand, but what is the difference between this line here and the fifth line to the second the second paragraph?
Would you like to?
Because one is the 31st day of March, the other one is April 30th. So you see, there must be a reason why they have it 1 month.
I think.
Can I answer that, sir?
Has a question. Yes, sir.
As it stands now, it expires March 31st. After the 31st day of March, we start charging you a flat fee of $50 plus $1 for each calendar day that you didn't renew. Up until the 30th of April, we not only go out and we revoke your license. In other words, it's canceled because of the fact that you're probably doing business out there
George,
without a valid license.
George, my question is, why is
yes.
the 1 month difference between the one on top, which is now being amended to June?
That's the way it was set up
and
by
then
law,
April.
sir.
Is there any rhyme or reason for it?
That was the way
Okay. No,
Public
that's
Law
all
20.
I need. That's all I need to.
That was the way it was set up.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Senior Senator Pinko. On the First Amendment as posed, proffered by Senator Ishizaki. Senator Shimizu.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on the Ishizaki amendment, basically he made that motion because the department wants it, so I want to know, other than that, that's the reason for changing the date. So maybe I would like to hear what is the, why are you requesting
Can I answer that again, sir?
the change of date? Yeah.
Last year and previous years, a lot of the business people were complaining to us, why can't you people just get everything together, you know? I mean, June, why can't you just make it June? Because they were paying all these penalties, and I don't think the law was set up to make penalties. It's just to regulate taxes and to make sure that you are in compliance with the law. And again, if you're going to regulate taxes, March 31st, and I appealed to a former senator before he authored this bill, former Senator Casbar, to please make it all June, because business people have a lot of dates to remember, and March 31st isn't one of their dates in their calendar, you know. So if it was all June 30, they said if it was all in June, they can remember. And
Yeah.
all
Jo-
done,
I
liquor
have the floor,
license,
Mr. Chairman.
tobacco
Just,
license.
George, let me just ask you, since I have the floor. Was submitted by the department, right?
Yes, it was.
this bill, the fees were submitted by you guys, right?
The fees were, but in conjunction with the already existing bill.
Right. But this document came from where, Mr. Chair?
We worked on it. Reverend Tax
Okay.
worked on this.
The reason why I asked that because if this revenue and tax worked on this and submitted it to us here, then maybe it could have been changed at the time that this was initiated. You see what I'm saying? So when you guys give us the bill, we don't have to amend something that you want. You could have just put it in at the beginning, because that's what you, on your expertise, that's the best way. I just wanted to find out when we start making amendments here. I want to make sure. But he did not get the opportunity to change that to June 1st when it was submitted to us.
But again, sir, that was by statute, Public Law 24178.
Right, but I'm saying
we
now,
couldn't arbitrarily just change it ourselves.
No. This is a recommendation for a change. That's what I'm saying. So it was not changed. So now we'll change it, because that's why we're here to amend any statutes, repeal any statute, based on your testimony. And George, you've worked up there a long time, so you face the people. So I have no objection to change the date per recommendation by the revenue and tax to delete the 31st and change that to June.
Okay.
No objection.
Thank you very much, Senator Shimizu. Again, on the amendment as proffered by Senator Ishizaki. Okay, no objections. The amendment carries. Now, there's a second amendment you're to make, Senator Ishizaki, later on down the line. July 31st.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are, I think, 3 sections down below regarding renewals, penalties, and termination. And I propose that we change the April 30 date to July 31st in those 3 locations on this page 8.
Okay. Everyone has the document in front of them. I see the same 3 areas. Clerk's aware of it. So on the motion to change all references in this particular section from April 30th to July 31st. Correct? Okay. And on that second amendment, is there any comment? There are no objection? Okay. Amendment carries. Again, we are back on section 14. If no other speakers in section 14, Senior Senator Ampinko, on section 14.
I think that as far as the construction of this amendment, though, like on line 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, the use of the word his license, a licensee who failed to renew his license, I think we should make that into a generic.
Gender neutral?
Rather than his or her, just say perhaps who failed to renew before, because we already, a licensee who failed to renew on or before the 31st day of June. Would that be grammatically correct? Just take out the word to his license. And then also further down the line, there's a use of he, each calendar day, he is delinquent. So what I'm saying, can we probably make it into a generic use of it? Could be he or she. And
Shim?
But
does anyone care to make an amendment here?
There's several lines down, Mr. Chairman, just on that. Whether it's feminine or masculine or third person masculine gender.
Does Senator
female
Tenori,
gender.
maybe Senator Tenori has a recommendation. Senator Tenori?
It's very easy, just to make a motion, which is already on the books, to allow the legal counsel to make such necessary technical corrections specifically to this section to make it gender neutral, and you could say the licensee, which is pretty straightforward. Just put licensee.
Okay.
Right. So allowing the legal counsel to to tweak the language in order to make it gender neutral isn't effectively what he's trying to accomplish. But there's already language in the law also says that he has the inverse relationship to she, etc.
Would that recommendation satisfy the senior senator? Yeah. So again, if there's no objection from the body, we'll allow legal counsel to make necessary technical corrections to be as politically correct in terms of gender neutrality. And if there's no objection, we'll move on forward. Okay. No, thank you. Now, we are now on Section 14. Oh. If there's no other comments on Section 14, we move on to Section 15, which is page 8 and 9. Section 15, going once, going twice. Okay, no objection to Section 16, no comments. Section 15, Section 16. We are on Section 16 and page 9. If nothing on Section 16, we go along to Senior Senator Impinko with Section 16.
Can I get a definition of what is an amusement device? And what do they mean by that?
Art? Who would like to answer that?
Oh,
George? George would care to answer that. What's the definition of an amusement device?
Anything that is not a gambling device. But again, we have several things there that the legislature has defined, like the horse race machine is a $600 thing, and you can win out of that. And usually, like kiddie rides, game of skill, those are amusement devices, as opposed to regular gambling device that has been singled out by the statute on multiple pinball machines, the kiddie rides, the amusement device is anything other than a gambling device.
So would you consider like a pinball machine or pachinko's or Liberty machines, so an amusement machine?
In the current statute that it is, yes. In other words, it like a Liberty machine shows you a hand, and it's not rotating, it's not circulating. It even tells you what to press. You can press it if you want to or not. And again, that is a game of skill to outwit the machine, as opposed to a horse race machine that you have determined in the past that it is all right. And we have, I guess, double standards here, but being that it's the way it was set up.
So, okay, let me ask this question now. There is a section, part of the section of the law right now that requires that the owner of this machine, supposedly an amusement, where people are refunded their money over and beyond what they put in, or they'll take their money over and beyond what they want. In other words, what I'm saying is it's like a slot machine, right?
No. A slot machine is defined as a one arm and all that. There's a definition in the statute for what is a slot machine and what is
I don't know whether this is the time or maybe, to address really what it really means. Because once we pass this section,
I think
we're gone for another 30 years before we will address what's an amusement and what's not, right?
Again, this has already been settled in, and it's been there. All we're doing is addressing the fees, just like we were addressing the fees of tobacco. It was just
okay, George. The only thing that I'm really
I can see where your concern
is for you on your professional judgment, to tell us, is there any differentiation in terms of what is an amusement machine and what is not?
Just to let you know,
or is it just anything that you play is for fun, and therefore all you need to do is pay $10 or $20, whatever the case may be?
There is a definition.
And it's really not a game of chance.
On page 10, F, subsection F, on each video type, symbolic gaming machine, or Liberty type gaming machine, or any substantially similar gaming machine, or any other amusement device that does not fall into any of the classification listed with this section 5, $500. So it describes it as an amusement. And this is where we were having a problem in the past, where it used to say it is a one-armed bandit, but then they just changed the display on the top and put pachinko. And you can put anything you want, but it's still a one-armed bandit. And this is why some of those machines had to be seized and destroyed. Because of the definition when you enter, it's not circulating, it's not rotating.
But the use
by
of the word
definition,
here,
you have defined it in the past.
Okay, well, on this page, you use the word Liberty Machine, which is really a company name, or is it a manufacturer's name, or what? Because, you know, the way the law should be described, or what we have here, it should be described according to what that machine is doing, and not necessarily whether it is a brand name, like Toyota, you know,
I think it's a
Chevrolet.
manufacturer's because it has the Statue of Liberty, I believe, in the thing. There's one that's called Match. There's one that's called Symbolic. And then
Yeah, but what happened if another company comes in and changes their name to, let's say,
well, it might be infringement of franchise because you cannot just come and intellectual property.
what is similar type of device?
They have one called Match.
That's what I'm saying. Do you need to amend the law to put match down? You know, could
No,
we
'cause it's
put a
the-
generic language where it would cover all of the type of devices that, even though, you know.
But again, on subsection F, it says, or any substantially similar. And I think that's the way it has read. And not, you know, if you want to redefine it.
I don't know, maybe somebody else can provide the definition. I cannot do it right now, but I think it's, you know, improper to use the company name or manufacturer's name to describe a certain device. Just like when you're procuring something, you cannot say that you like this brand name versus the other. So, you know, use the name, let's say IBM versus
Well,
the
if
other.
you want to, I guess your recommendation, maybe we should remove the word liberty and just make it a. Each video type, symbolic or gaming machine, or any substantially similar gaming machine, or any other amusement device that does not fall into this classification listed. I agree. I guess I never really thought about the possibility that it refers to a specific type of machine that is being circulated. But there are different names out there, and you're right. Maybe we can strike out.
Would you care to make
Mr. Chairman, I really don't have, or I don't know how to sort of craft an amendment to make it very generic, where it covers the same devices that without saying that is not an amusement machine, and therefore it should be charged this amount, whether it will be any different brand name.
Yeah. You know, Senator, I can tell there's several senators that really want to talk in this matter, but I will allow is if you could work on a suggested amendment based on your concerns, and I can get back to you when that amendment is ready. Okay? Okay, thank you very much, Senior Senator. Again, we are in Section 16, and I am now with Senator Judy Guthert. Senator Guthert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can understand the dilemma of our senior senator. I'm a little confused by some of this, because if we're going to be honest about it, and I hope that this legislature would be honest about everything we do. We're basically talking about gambling devices here in Section F. Now, I want to share with you real quickly an experience I had last school year at the University of Guam. I was teaching a class. It was an ethics class. And one of our projects, we did an undercover operation. Because in the class, we were talking about the question, are there gambling devices on Guam? And are people visiting those gambling devices? Many students felt there were. Some students said they weren't sure. So in order to determine whether or not there were or weren't, we organized a little experiment. The students were divided into two groups. One group was to visit pachinko parlors as customers. The other group was to visit establishments that have so-called liberty machines. And part of their protocol was to observe what was happening in those establishments, and in some instances, and I provided the monies for it, to play the machines to see what happens should they win. You know, years ago, the pachinko machines were very subdued. If you played the pachinko machines and it was a game of skill, you would be given a bar of soap or something, and then you'd go next door to a place next door to the pachinko parlor, and you could turn your bar of soap into cash. Now it's more blatant, it's more direct. You don't have to go next door anymore to change your bar of soap into cash. You can cash in your chips while you're there. The liberty machines were observed behind restaurants, in rooms in restaurants, in rooms in bars, patronized by many, many people all hours of the day. These, in fact, are gambling devices, even if they're not defined as such in the law. And I think what's important, Mr. Chairman, is for this legislature to decide, so we're not downplaying the existing law, which prohibits these kinds of activities. Are we going to allow gambling and gaming machines to operate on Guam in the guise of liberty machines and pachinko machines and other things of a similar nature? Or are we going to stand up and say no more and ban the machines? If we're going to allow these machines to operate here, then I would proffer an amendment to increase the licensing fee to $10,000 each per year. That would be my motion. An alternative motion would be just to simply ban these kinds of devices. I don't know if our legislature is ready for that, but I think we should recognize that hundreds of thousands of dollars are escaping this government in the form of taxes, and one reason is because we consider these machines games of fun, and skill, rather than what they are. They're paying out money to the users. So, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we amend this section, Section F, and that we apply a fee of $10,000 per machine per year until this legislature is ready to repeal the authorization for these machines to operate on the island.
Okay, there's been an amendment offered by Senator Guthertz that on F, that the fees now for the video type symbolic gaming machine or liberty type gaming machine shall be $10,000. On the Guthertz amendment, Senator Palacios.
This item F, because it's on the line, I would assume that this is new, which means then that we may have it right now, except that we're not charging. Isn't it?
You're not charging?
There are now machines under the item F, like video type symbolic, but except that there is no statute that authorizes the Department of Revenue and Taxation to charge, because these are underlined, and on a bill when it's underlined, it means it's a new item.
Well, I guess they're reclassifying it because of the fact that it was $25 for the the machine itself.
Yeah, but the whole item now is underlined, and
Yes.
I learned that I think when you underline, the underlined items are the new items. So we have to correct that then. If there's already a charge right now, we're talking on the F. On each video type, which means that the entire F is a new item, which means, in my thinking, that if we delete this, that means we're not even getting a penny, but it's still out there. Are these machines, is it not against the law to operate any of this machine on the F right now?
I just want to clarify, Senator. I know she made two alternative amendments, but the first amendment, as far as I'm concerned, there's only one amendment, and the amendment is to raise it up to $10,000. So that's what we're discussing. So I know there was an alternative option, but I think that was never put out to the body. We're now on the Guthers amendment to raise the fee to $10,000 for these, particular for F. So that's where we're at now, Senator Palacios. Just on F.
No. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Guthers, you made an amendment to raise the fee from $500 to $10,000 on F on section 16. So in section 16, on part F, you've made that a motion.
Were restricted to section F, but I see they're also in E, correct? They're also in F. Yeah. A, E, F.
Pinball?
Yeah, A, E, F.
Okay.
Yeah, A, E, F. So my motion would apply to A, E, F, Mr. Chairman.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Tell you what. You know what I'm going to. Senator, we're now on your original motion, and I'm going to. You've expanded on it. I'm going to request that the mover of the amendment. Would you rather you withdraw this amendment, the first amendment, which is 10,000 on F, and if you withdraw that amendment, then I'm going to ask you to place this amendment in written form. And provide it to the members of the body. And I'm going to allow a few minutes recess. Okay, so would you like to withdraw the amendment, and I will allow you to. No objection. Okay, okay, we're going to take a couple of minutes recess so that the senator can make a written amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where are the rest of the senators? Well, as you know, prior to our recess, I made a motion to amend sections A, E, and F. However, I will start with section A first, Mr. Speaker. This is the First Amendment.
Okay.
To amend section 16, 22202, letter A, to read as follows. A, on each pinball machine, including pachinko or similar type of machines, $10,000.
Okay. On the Guthers amendment, Senator Show, then Senator. Okay, Senator Blas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the intent of what Senator Guthers wants to do here, but on each pinball machine, $10,000.
Mr. Chairman, I would not.
I think I still have the floor, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Continue, Senator Blas.
I'm sorry.
On each pinball machine, $10,000. You know how many kids play pinball? You know how many kids grew up? How many of us grew up with pinball machines, and we're gonna have $10,000? I think we're doing this whole exercise, Mr. Chair, is we're arbitrarily doing this. I agree with the concerns that were brought up earlier by the good Senator Respicio with regards to the process that we're going through here. I think we're taking full advantage of our opportunity of what we have here to be able to raise fees, raise rates based on and not allow public input on this. And this is just one of them. What is our intent here? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Blas. On the Guthrie's Amendment, Senator Respicio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I understand perfectly well the mover's intent of this legislation. I want to be the first to commend her for doing something like this, but I have to be the first also, Mr. Chairman, now the second, based on the sentiments expressed by the previous speaker, that I don't believe that this is the most appropriate time to be doing something like this. I've said from the very beginning of this process where the legislature now has to address whether or not these fees ought to be raised in a process by which there was absolutely no public hearing. We've gone through several chapters of fees from the Guam Fire Department and now with revenue and taxation, and I've seen senators just arbitrarily increase or decrease fees when we were told from the very beginning that this whole exercise was to try to recover the cost of doing business here on Guam. And we were told that this exercise was important because it would bridge the current cash shortfall that we recognize in Bill 74. So while this amendment may be worthwhile or meritorious, I don't think that this is the most appropriate time to do something like this. And the senator, if she feels very strongly about this, can introduce a standalone bill and let it go through the public hearing process. I'm just not going to sit here and just see our colleagues at whim increase and decrease certain fees for the sake of making certain public messages. And so I can't support this amendment with all due respect. I can't support this amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Respicio. On the Guthrie's Amendment, Senator Palacios.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to share two items. First of all, of course, what we're considering before us, and it's not just this section, but the entire fee adjustment under the revenue and taxation jurisdiction. What was Bill 199, which was submitted and had a public hearing in the last term, 28th Guam Legislature, is actually a duplicate. This is a duplicate of that bill. And there was a public hearing on Bill 199. No one came to object or to come and raise and so forth. So there's a record that this particular item, as Bill 199 last term, was heard. It was just not reported out. And the concerns which I also share with respect to perhaps abuse or circumventing, to me, this can be addressed better internally by the Department of Revenue and Taxation. With the anticipated increase in the adjustments, hopefully there will be, I guess, a strengthening in the regulatory and monitoring. And then we'll go ahead and again find out these things, do an undercover work on this and find these people. And maybe we can adjust the fine to make it 10,000 for abuse of those machines, canceling points supposedly on the guise of malfunction only to pay out, when the actuality is to pay out. And I believe I'm aware of that. But that can be addressed by the regulatory part of the Department of Revenue and Taxation. Unless I'm mistaken, I want to be informed right now by the staff out there. If those abuses and circumventing cannot be addressed, then I like to know now, but I think it could. So, to me, there's really no. I'm not convinced that this industry should be shut down here and now. Probably another time we can consider this in a more extended deliberation. This particular issue, the pinball, but maybe we should have a referendum in the same way that gambling requires a referendum. And then we'll reverse this. I don't know what they say, referendum or. So that's my remark about this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Palacios, on the Guthrie's amendment. Senator Wampat?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman, is to amend the amendment and to delete the words on each pinball machine, including, and that it should only remain pachinko or similar types of machines, $10,000.
Okay, so there has been an amendment by Senator Wampat to the Guthrie's amendment to delete after, would it be after A? And then delete on each pinball machine, including. So it would read now, section 2202, letter A, to read as follows: A, pachinko or similar type of machines, etc., etc., etc.
Yes.
Correct?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. So what I wanted to do really is just remove the word pinball so that it'll be on each
So do you want to
pachinko.
just delete pinball?
Yes, pinball machine.
Okay, so can you rephrase the amendment?
So it'll be on each pachinko or similar type of machine.
So you would like to delete pinball?
Pinball machine.
The amendment?
The word including. Pinball machine including those three words.
Okay, on the Wampat amendment, on the Guthrie's amendment as amended by Senator Wampat, the motion is now to delete pinball machines, and we'll read A on pachinko, and then etc. On each pachinko or similar type machines. On the amendment to the amendment offered by Senator Wampat, Senator Respicio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then, if this amendment passes, will then there be another amendment to put pinball machine at $25? Because okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Respicio. Okay, on the proposed amendment to the amendment, Senator Palacios.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share the same observation by with the last speaker. Respect to the deletion of each pinball. This then, by deleting that, then would place it back to status quo, which would be that on each pinball machine, the current fee stays. But when you read B, it says multiple. On each multiple coin pinball machine is $500. If we're gonna accept the B, and on a single machine, I think that would be the effect if you leave that out on each pinball machine and just say pachinko or similar type of machine. Unless somebody will restore that later as a separate item. Yeah, but there's no new section. Nobody offered a new section yet.
Correct, Senator Wampat. I think the issue's been brought up to the two former speakers. Are you intending to offer another similar amendment to deal with the pinball machine? Continue, Senator Palacios.
That's what I see. But see, I cannot support that the doctor's amendment without assurance that the restoration of a pinball is already there.
You've given your assurance to Senator Wampat. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, continue, Senator Palacios. On the motion. Is that it?
And again, point of clarification. It did say that the original item for that is actually, when you look at this, is on the F. On the A, it says $100. See, the adjustment on a single pinball machine, including pachinko, blah, 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 is $100. So that means that if you were to extract just the pinball machine, then you would still have the $100 adjustment. And in that way, I'll support that. Otherwise, then it is the only item that will not be adjusted. Unless you be from $25 to $100, then it has not changed. And that, that, in other words, I still would like to see on each pinball machine $100 fee.
We're not going to offer another amendment. Are you all trying to offer another amendment? We're commenting on the amendment to the amendment. So do you have an amendment to make?
No, but I'm saying that my support of the Governor's amendment depends on whether the pinball machine would have a $100 fee adjustment. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Palacios. On the amendment to the amendment, Senator Blas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And appreciate, and I'm still a little bit confused here, okay? Because now we're limiting it out to pachinko and similar type machines. I think we're getting a little bit too technical here, and then how are we going to define what similar type machines are? Again, Mr. Chair, goes back to my concern. I recognize and I understand what we're doing here. Why are we sitting in the halls to begin with? It's because we're trying to deal with a government that's financially strapped and trying to get income revenue back into the government. And I think that we're, in some cases we may be confusing other things, other matters with regards to what the true intent is here. And I appreciate and I concern and I understand in as far as what the author of the amendment and the amendment to the amendment would like to do. But I agree again with Senator Respicio that there is the good senator. There is another time and another place that we can have this discussion, so that we can iron out simple things that are as complex as similar type machines. We're going to pass legislation that then the gentleman and the good lady that's sitting next to you are going to have the duty to enforce, and it's ambiguous. And maybe, Mr. Chair, if you can allow me to, if I can ask the people that are sitting on the table, what is meant by similar type machines?
Are you posing the question?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Ilagan?
I think when we're looking at these pachinko machines, I think when you say similar, I think you're talking about gambling. I think that's the intent of what the senators are looking at and how to stop gambling in Guam.
And I recognize that, Art, but here we're looking at the amendment was based on a proposal that was provided by the administration. Okay, and in the proposal provided by the administration, it basically spells out, and maybe I will ask, Senator, the good senator from Malolo, but first, ma'am, can I give them an opportunity, to clarify in the proposal as provided, what was it meant by and similar type machines?
Probably the problem is identifying these machines as gambling machines. Anything that gambles or pays out should be charged at $10,000 each, or taken off and not allowed in Guam. Otherwise, you're just trying to cover our eyes to what's happening out there. The problem with revenue tax and enforcing gambling is we don't have enough staff. The same staff that looks at the ABC, the bars, it's the same staff that would be looking at the machines, and we just don't have enough resources to clamp down on violators.
Okay, so do these machines pay out?
That's what they say. We have no evidence, because every time we go there, they're not paying out.
Ma'am, if you allow, Mr. Chair, the good senator from
Would the author
Malolo?
of the amendment to the amendment care to yield to the questions posed by Senator Blas?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Wampat, please.
Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at Title 9, Chapter 64 on gaming. and I don't want to use my own words, I want to use what's in the law. And the way it is used, it says gambling device means any coin-operated device which, when operated, may return winnings other than free games or non-redeemable for cash of value to the user based partially or completely upon chance, by the operation of which a person may become entitled to receive winnings of value. Now, it does not include pinball and other amusement machines or devices which are predominantly games of skill, whether affording the opportunity of additional chances or free plays or not. Now, it does include any slot machines, video poker machines, and other machines or devices, and that's the similar, which afford the opportunity of winnings, payouts, malfunction, refunds to the player, or giving the player or user anything of value under any guise or form based partially or completely upon chance. So this is the definition that's in the books, in the GCA, Title 9, Chapter 64.
Does that answer the question posed by the
Yes, it does.
Senator Blas?
But then I have to go back to the response given by Art with regards to, recognizing that you don't have enough people to go out and enforce these laws. I think that we're talking about two separate issues here then. Is the ability to be able to do this. And, I recognize that, Art, and, if through this whole process, I think that I think we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that the reason why we're sitting here is because we're trying to get, and find additional sources of revenue so that we can continue to fund the government operations, and hopefully also to pay down some of our debt. And I think that with regards to the enforcement aspect of it, this is one of those things those areas that we seriously have to look into. So I appreciate how your hands are tied. I just don't know whether or not something like this amendment or going through this process here would help you to deal with that situation, as well as, in our case here, getting revenues for the government. And I'm just very much concerned that, if we don't clearly define, the machines that we're going to impose these fees on, that then we may arbitrarily just cause businesses that have amusement machines just to say, forget it. We're not going to operate here anymore. And then how much is that going to cost us with regards to revenues? We'll have a fee for something, for a machine that no longer exists. Then we're back to square one. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Blas. Again, on WANPAT, amendment to the amendment, Senator Shimizu.
Thank you very much. On Senator Wampa's amendment to break out the bundle and remove pinball machine and to add that on to another area separated from the proposed Gutter's amendment of $10,000 fee. Now, if that was redacted out, the pinball machine is not there, then it would read as follows: A, on pachinko or similar type machines.
On each.
Okay, on each pachinko or similar type machine. So if you look at that, I don't go and I'm not an expert in gambling, but if we read the Fino English, it says pachinko or similar type of machine. Is it similar, the cousin of pachinko only? Is that how you're going to guide yourself? You see, just on each pachinko or similar type machine to the pachinko. Am I reading it? Am I, stretching my Fino English here? But if the similar type machine relates to the pachinko, pues pumarintis na dyan si Pachinko. You know, and is that how, am I reading it right? I mean, similar type of machines to the Pachinko. And if I remember Pachinko, when I went to Japan, it's one of those things you put a lot of balls, no? It's a round silver, just let it run. And that's it just goes down. Now, can you tell me what is similar to Pachinko in this language? Because okay, let me make it simple. If it's just on each pachinko machine, period.
But those are pachinko machines that have the balls. These are not the pachinko gambling devices. These are balls that you do get.
Yeah, it comes down. See,
you
I
do
don't- I
get
don't-
prices. These are not. You know, these are the Japanese where they sit down and
Yeah,
all
keeps
these
it-
balls
yeah.
keep flowing down.
So what's the similar machine?
That's what I don't know. I mean, Bill 199 addressed it before.
No, but you see where I'm coming from? If we follow the
Again, I didn't write
the
the bill.
Sentis, no, not you. I'm just asking the question to the amendment. Because the amendment basically changed it and says on each pachinko or similar type machine. So I'm not an expert on the what is a similar pachinko machine. No, the pinball has been removed. It's going to be removed. The amendment on Senator Wampat. There's nothing other, right?
That's similar to it. No, sir.
Right. So I'm asking now on each pachinko machine, 10,000. No, I'm just asking. There's no other similar. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sir?
Yeah, I think right now we're making an amendment to the amendment. We're going to deal with it. And then if you'd like to proffer another amendment
No,
later on.
I'm just really asking a point of clarification because once the Wampat amendments succeed, it's no longer pinball machine, and the Fino English will be on each pachinko or similar type machine. That's what we'll be voting on today, on that amendment. So, just want to make it clear in my mind.
Senator?
Yes,
if I-
please.
Perhaps maybe I can clarify why that word similar went into that particular section. We have been trying to enforce amusement device registration, and we've been finding when we go out there that there is constantly new devices that are coming into Guam that are similar in nature to what there is already here. But in identifying that particular machine, we can only say it's similar to either video, it's similar to match play, it's similar to Liberty. That's all we can say because we don't have the technology to go into the computerized of that machine. So in essence, I don't know what to call it, but to say something similar to that particular machine.
Yeah, the reason why I say that because the English construction of this, when you make similar to the previous Pachenko, it may be that I'm trying to help this thing alone. So to say that including on each Pachenko or other amusement device rather than the similarity. Because if you say similar to Pachenko, it only describes certain things, and it may be that the person will come in and challenge revenue tax and saying that that's not included in the law because parentis pachenko, this is not a pachenko similarity. It's a whole new, like you said, a whole new. So maybe later on, we might, at an appropriate time, that we may want to just clean up the make it better in terms of the English version on each pachinko machine.
I understand that, sir. I understand your sentiments on that. However, as the enforcement supervisor, I'd rather that we have that individual licensee come in here and challenge that through the courts and let the court determine whether that is a gambling machine or an amusement device or similar in nature to other machines. I am only enforcing what I would deem as necessary because it's similar.
Let the court decide whether that is similar in nature or not.
So you want to go and go to court at this rather than clearing it up now?
Sir,
You know, it was a prevention now. I'm just asking that question. If you want to do that, I'm telling you, if we can make the language very crystal clear so that the public know exactly and it does not get into a guessing game, and then we can get it, because that has been taken to courts and the government has lost on a number of these things in terms of its definition. And I'm bringing that issue up, Mr. Chair, to just make sure that the similar device is not only to Pachenko, but it could be that of other amusement device. So the similarity might just limit. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Shimizu. Again, on the Juan Pat's amendment to the Guthertz amendment, Senator Guthertz, you would like to comment
Yes,
on the
thank
amendment to your amendment. Senator
Thank you,
Guthertz.
Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank Senator Wonpat for her amendment. And in terms of Dr. Shimizu's question, I think we can clarify it very simply later at the right moment. After we dispose of the amendment to the amendment, perhaps we can add the language or a similar type of machine that provides a financial payback to the player. That probably would satisfy the concern. Mr. Chairman, on the amendment also, I think it's important that this section strictly refer to the items that are included at this point. And just for your information, the Department of Revenue and Taxation has reported that on Guam, as of this point in time, there are only 9 pinball machines registered with the Department of Revenue and Taxation for a total license fee revenue of $225. However, there are presently 252 pachinko machines registered with the Department of Revenue Taxation at this time for a total revenue to the department of $6,300. And there are 566 video Liberty machines registered with the Department of Revenue Taxation for a total revenue of $14,150. Now, I believe that there are many more machines being operated that are not registered. And that's a whole nother story. Mr. Chairman, I hope we can act on the amendment to the amendment this time.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Guthertz. And with that, Senator Wonpat, would you like to close on your amendment to the amendment? Or if you don't?
Real quickly, just to reiterate that why that the word similar is being used primarily because as the senior senator started to, at the very beginning of this whole discussion, really was to kind of come up with a definition or a description rather than to specifically say match or symbolic or liberty, because then we're limiting ourselves to just that. And you know, it reminds me, of course, even when I was a school principal, and once we were talking about weapons that children were going to bring in, and rather than just to say guns and knives, we knew then that if somebody brought something else in and it's not part of that definition, then guess what? We can't then suspend the child based on that. So I had to use something, basically a device, anything that can be used as a weapon to harm, to hurt, you see, and then that was the only thing that flew. Let me tell you then that we can just, it covers everything. So the word similar, you know, to pachinko, then basically, when you think of the machine, what kind of a machine is it, you know, and then if you use the definition in the GCA, and it tells you also in terms of winnings and payouts and all that, then that covers it. So, I mean, that's it, Mr. Chairman. Let's vote.
Okay. On the Wonpat amendment to the amendment, is there no objection? Okay, no objection. Then amendment to the amendment carries. On the main amendment as amended of Senator Guthertz. Okay, and this is how now the new amendment, or the amendment as amended would read, proposed by Senator Guthertz. Amend Section 16, Section 22202, letter A, to read as follows. A, on each pachinko or similar type machines, $10,000. And of course, on the amendment, I'll allow the mover of the amendment to make a final.
Just very briefly, Mr.
Statement.
Chairman, a bit earlier we heard our colleague Senator Wampat read directly from the Guam Code Annotated what a gambling device is. And it's very clear to me that pachinko machines and Liberty machines fall under that definition. I'm not certain why these machines are operating at all. My thinking, Mr. Chairman, is until this legislature is ready to in fact ban these machines, then the government should at least retrieve an appropriate license fee on a yearly basis for their operation. All you have to do is go to the locations where these machines are in operation and just see what is happening. And you will recognize that the current $100 fee for a pachinko machine is a drop in the bucket. That is the rationale for my amendment, Mr. Chairman, to raise the license fee for these machines to $10,000. If they're going to be here, then let the owners and the operators that facilitate these machines contribute to the betterment of our society. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Guthertz. Again, on the amendment as amended, if there's no objection? Objection, so let's see, hands. Raise your hands, all in favor of the amendment. Okay. There's no call of the House and committee as a whole. Raise your hands, all in favor of the amendment.
They're here, Mr. Chair. They're just outside. Can we call them
Can
here,
you please raise your hands, all in favor of the amendment?
No objection.
There's been an objection. There's been an objection.
Senator Rory objected?
Yes, R-O-R-Y-R-E-S-P-I-C-I-O.
Now there's been an objection.
Thank you,
I'd like
Madam
to see
Minority
hands,
Leader.
please, hands. Hands in. Okay. Okay. Amendment fails. Next, Senator Guthertz, you have another amendment? No, you cannot move for reconsideration.
Boy, I don't understand this legislature. Honestly, this is very interesting. I have to study this. Okay. It is educational.
Senator Guthertz has a microphone. She has another amendment. Senator Guthertz.
I guess we support gambling on Guam. Okay. My next amendment, letter E, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, a point of personal privilege. You can't correlate my no vote to not supporting gambling on Guam. I want to make that perfectly clear. I don't support gambling, but for me it was about the process.
Okay, thank you very much.
I appreciate that. I respect that. Thank you, Senator Spichel.
Continue on, Senator Guthertz, on your next amendment.
Okay. Section 2202, letter E, to read as follows. On each video horse or greyhound race machine, $10,000. That's the amendment, Mr. Chairman.
On the Guthertz amendment, Senator Wampat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm sure that everybody understands, of course, the reason for why our colleague here is introducing this amendment. And I agree with her. It's not so much to say that we are in favor of gambling, and that's the reason why we want to increase the amount. But, you know, we have just gone through, like we said earlier, and I'm going to use the same arguments that these guys also use, is that we have the other departments here earlier, and we're going to see other departments who are going to come before us again to present their fees, their schedule fees. And if we're going to continually use this argument that it has not had the opportunity to go before the public to be heard because there's a process. I mean, you know, we used that argument last year when we didn't want civil service to be disseminated, and yet it was done in this body during a budget hearing as well. And then here again, now we're going through this, and then you're going to throw at my face now to say that we haven't done it? Then why are we here? Let's send these guys all home. We spent all day yesterday, we're spending all day today and tomorrow. So if we don't want to do this because it hasn't had a public hearing, then by all means, why are we wasting everybody's time? But the other thing, on the other hand, too, is that these people have been through this legislature before. I remembered in 1995 that they presented in a governor's bill the whole schedule, and it was this body that rejected it, even though it went through the AAA process. And from my understanding, the last time that they've ever done this kind of change was in, 1953? And we're squawking? We complain that we say, well, gosh, the license is going to go up to $25, and we can't afford $5, but we can afford a car, we can afford to pay gas. I mean, why do we have all these double standards? I mean, I know you're going to say stop being like a school principal and stop lecturing, but it just really irks me if we're not going to be true to what it is that we are trying to do. And yes, I love to go through the process, and that's why I had asked that question earlier with the fire department then, is that if this is not even going to go through, what can we do to help you instead? You know, and it's the same thing, what can we do to help you? And what can we do to help the government other than to spend money? And of all people, you're a department that collects the revenues, and we're tying your hands again every time you make some reasonable suggestion. So whatever way this goes, I suppose that's the whole part of the process in this body. But it surely does not indicate for anybody here, I'm sure, that, you know, they're definitely in favor of gambling or not. Although, during the campaign time, at least I can say 99% said that they were not in favor of it. And then the people said they're not in favor of it. And then finally, when this legislature wants to do something about it, oh, you know, let's go through another process again. We keep passing the buck on to everybody else instead of doing it on our own. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Wampat. Senator Palacios.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, I raise objection to the amendment, and I go for a vote.
Well,
you cannot do that. I don't know the process.
There's another speaker on the amendment.
Okay, but I raise objection.
But Senator Palacios, continue. Do you have any other comments on?
The reason I object to this, Mr. Speaker, and I was just thinking, if based on the previous item, that really by raising this to $10,000, there is an acknowledgement that there is gambling going on, and that because there's gambling going on, we're going to charge $10,000. The implication of allowing this and charging $10,000 is in essence implying that they can have this, they can go on with this gambling, which is actually the contrary to against gambling. It actually might allow gambling in an implied fashion if this were to pass, or any amendment to pass, with a $10,000 fee, because the $10,000 fee is actually an implied acknowledgement that this is a gambling machine. And that's my concern. Either way that this pass or not, that's my objection. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Respicio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to publicly thank our minority leader for giving me an opportunity to demonstrate my consistency. The example she used was how the Civil Service Commission was totally eviscerated in the last budget process, and I voted no against that budget, as you very well know, Mr. Chairman. And I can't. The amendment before us, it's to increase the licenses on these devices from $600 to $10,000, I still can't see how voting against this amendment is a statement that we support gambling. I've always been very clear, Mr. Chairman, that it has to be about the process, and we cannot just sometimes, as much as we'd like to, the legislature by design it's a very deliberative process, and it's supposed to represent the wishes of the majority, and at the same time protect the rights of the minority. And I just don't want any vote for or against this amendment to be construed otherwise than a vote as to whether or not these licenses should be increased to $10,000. For the record, I don't support this amendment because I think this amount is just unreasonable. If we're going to pull $10,000 out of the air, why don't we make it $100,000 per machine? Why don't we make it $1 million per machine? Why this magic number of $10,000, and why are we doing this without a proper public hearing process? And so I pose this amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Senator Respicio, on the Guthers amendment. Senator Pangilinan?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say, for the record, that I think that we are kind of diverting our discussion really from the fees being proposed to the issue of gambling. And while I am fully prepared to address the issue of gambling, I just don't think this is the way to go about it. I really believe that if we are going to make a decision on gambling, that we address it cohesively, and that if we are going to allow for the existence of these machines, the revenue for these machines are not from the licensing fee. They're going to come from the income. And Revenue Tax needs staff to monitor the machines, to ensure that they tax every single dollar or quarter or whatever denomination goes into those machines and comes out. So that if we are going to allow gambling, whether tacitly or intacitly, that we do it with a system in place, or fund to put a system in place at Rev Tax or whatever entity that we want to regulate gambling, in a manner that allows us to not, again, do it haphazardly, or, put together a ragtag team, that we're going to not overburden them, but just, it really is not the way, I think, to discuss the issue of gambling. If we want to put a vote on whether or not we want to get rid of these machines or classify these machines as gambling machines and develop a whole mechanism to garner the economic benefits of putting it there as we think they are, then we should be approach it in a manner that's going to allow the system to work, rather than doing it in this fashion. And so for that reason, I just think that, while I certainly admire the tenacity of the movers of the amendment, that the way to approach this, I think, is, this is not the best way in order to ensure that we do it right. And for that reason, I don't believe that this is the process that I want to endorse. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Pangilinan. Senator, you have the option if you want to speak on it finally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the concerns raised by my colleagues. However, the point I was trying to make, and still am trying to make, is that we have received a proposed fee schedule from the Department of Revenue and Taxation through the Governor's Office. In it are included devices that we all know in reality are gambling devices. The suggested fees for these devices really amounts to very little. The question I posed at the beginning was, if we are not ready to ban these machines outright in this legislature, then minimally at this time, until we are ready to address the issue of these machines in terms of whether they should be on the island or not, then we should at least require a fee for each machine that represents what they truly are. That was behind my thinking in offering these amendments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Guthers. And since there has been an objection raised to the amendment, I'd like to see a show of hands. All those in favor of the amendment as proffered by Senator Guthrie. So please raise your hands. Amendment fails. We have one last amendment proffered by Senator Guthrie. Senator Guthrie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I may go down with the ship on this, but it's okay. It's a matter of principle to me. Section 16, Section 22202, letter F, is amended to read as follows. F, on each video type symbolic gaming machine or Liberty type gaming machine or in any substantial similar gaming machine or any other amusement device that does not fall into any of the classifications listed within this section, $10,000.
Okay, on the Guthrie's amendment, Senator Shimizu.
Mr. Chair, you know, the fee structure that was being proposed to us was proposed by the administration. Am I not correct? Right, and it so somehow it went from like 500, and there's an amendment to make it 10,000. And I agree with Senator Pangilinan in terms of the process. I really don't know what is equitable. I really don't know the operation, no definition of some of the different types of machines, you know. But I wondered, just by chance, do you have other jurisdictions that say for this type of machine and the quantity, you know, what is the fee? Is that how you based your $500, for example? Because that's quite a jump from what you, the agency people, presented, and I like to think that there's some rhyme and some reason on that versus dealing with the issues of whether this industry should exist or not exist, or whether we should exist it by levying this kind of the amount. So I just want to be able to have that information. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Senator. The adjustment on these fees was based on the fact that it was something like 30 to 40 years ago when the original fees were put in place. The amount of machines at that particular time and the fees were perhaps conducive compared to the machines that are now arriving onto the island and the amount and the number of machines that are currently registered within our sections. As to any other table that we utilize to adjust those fees, that's how we arrive at that conclusion, or in this conclusion for the fees.
You know, just earlier when the fire department came, they submitted fees and they tied it to a, I forgot the standard that they had, the industry standard in their area. So I just wanted to find out if the fee proposal was tied to any industry standard. But I can understand, in fact, I understand that there are fees in this government that were first enacted back in the 20th century. We're already on the 21st century. So we need to, now I'm not addressing you in that area. There are fees from earlier agencies that we had spoke to that as far back as 1952. And 1952 was the 20th century. We're in the 21st. So I wanted to be able to look if the 500, you know, is the right amount or versus that of Senator Guthrie's. Of course, I have no other recourse but to side with the agency, because I'm assured that you would have had some formulary to come up to this amount. And I wanted to say that my decision on what to do, this will be based upon the recommendation from Art, your agency, coming forward. And hopefully this will be the beginning of a much more clarified ways of seeing what other industry, the industry standard has on fees. Thank you.
I just want to make a comment on on the fees that were looked at. ABC branch, and John is the John Garrido's the supervisor there, and John Carlos is his administrator. In that area, the functions or the automation process of a lot of the work is done manually. It's not really, they're still using the typewriters. They don't have computers. So when we looked at fees, we look at what they also need to make the work easier, more complete in doing their job. So part of it is trying to get our equipments, our procedures updated compared to the way we've been doing it for the past 40 years. So that's part of the fee increase we're looking at.
Thank you, Senator Simizu. On the Guther's amendment, Senator Blas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Art, going back and just tagging on to the questions asked by my good senator from Malolo. With regards to these fees as presented by the administration, obviously there was some thought process put into what these fees, increased fees, the amounts they would realize, projected. Am I right? In other words, based on these figures that you provided to us here, absent any amendments to any of the to the fees, did you do a cost-benefit analysis on this?
No, sir. How we base the fee increase is looking at the number of people right now that I need. And according to our staffing pattern, I need 11 people.
Okay.
I don't have that. I only have 4.
Okay.
I look at the man hours that they go out to spend just looking for these machines. First of all, registering them when they come in, inspecting them to make sure that they are amusement device, then going out and making sure that they are registered, going back out again to ensure the fact that, as the good Senator Guthrie say, gambling is not existing within these machines, okay? All those things. And just to let you know also, they can smell us 5 miles away when we drive up.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's gambling going on, we don't know about it because I don't have the manpower to go out and do the undercover work.
Sure. And I appreciate that. I understand that. And I think that going back to my previous statement about, I think that getting you the resources to be able to do that is one thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think that when you raise fees as exorbitantly as being proposed or amended, not as proposed here, but as through the amendment, there may not be any machines. If there's no machines, there may not be any need for other inspectors. But then that would also equate to no revenues into the government, which is exactly why we're here to begin with. See what I'm getting at?
I understand, sir.
Okay.
Let me say this, sir, that we're not out to kill the dog that lays the golden eggs. And I'm not out to bite my handler that gives me the food.
Yeah.
I'm not about to do that. So I make those judgments on basis that it's a win-win situation. We register these machines, but at the same time, we know that they can continue to come in and produce revenue to the machines. That's why the fees are like that. It's not intended to shut down those licensees.
And in the fees as you proposed,
yes, sir.
You'll be
It's also
able
the
to
proposal of the fees.
You'll be able to recover some of those costs that you're going to
We'll
need to
be able to recover.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Blas. On the Guther's amendment, anyone else? Senator Guthers, do you want to close on your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know what? I appreciate the comments of all of my colleagues. So I would like to suggest this, maybe as sort of a compromise. Instead of $10,000, why don't we charge $5,000? And if that's too much, why don't we charge $2,500 or maybe $1,000? The fact of the matter is the government is not getting a pittance for these machines on our island, and they are creating a lot of difficulties in this community. If they're going to be here, if these machines are going to be allowed to operate here, then let's get something out of it that helps not only recoup the costs, but pay for the social service interdictions that are required. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Gutherts. On the Gutherts amendment, is there an objection? There's no objection. Can I see a show of hands, please? All in favor of the Gutherts amendment? Amendment fails. Okay, to subsection G. Any comments, subsection G? Subsection H. Okay, we move to section 17, page 10. Any comments on section 17? Section 18. Comments? Section 19. No, section 18? Section 18, Senator Pangilinan?
18 is any of these devices not permitted by law to be registered or licensed found on the premises shall immediately be seized and confiscated. The owner of such device shall be fined. I want to amend that $500 here now to $5,000. So that there is a penalty for bringing a machine in, not registering it, not informing the department. Therefore, this will allow us to be sure that everyone that comes in is registered, accounted for, and when we find one that's not, there's a stiff penalty for doing so. And so I would amend that to the $500 to $5,000.
On the Pangilinan amendment,
18.
On section 18, to amend $500 to $5,000, Senator Tenorio.
I think the amendment is appropriate. It makes no sense to have a registration fee of amount and the penalty of the same amount. There is no deterrent built into that system, so it makes sense that the deterrent actually should be placed in a much higher degree. So I support the amendment.
Senator Blas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also support the amendment, and if I can proffer an amendment to the amendment, that it also includes that and shall bear all costs associated with the storage, destruction, and disposal. So add the word storage.
Senator Blas, can I have that in writing, please, so we get that to the clerks? Take
Yes, sir.
1 minute recess.